this one. Here's Williams pumping, looking, taking his time all day to throw it. Buys more time. Sidearm throw, and it's caught. Washington across the field. Hits the sideline. Touchdown, USC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Florida drops into a zone. Daniels trying to run it. Got some space. What a move! Jaden Daniels again! Jaden Daniels, touchdown LSU! 51 yards!
With 365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Snap to May. He's going to take a shot. Walker is his target and makes the catch.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
J.J. McCarthy looking over the middle. Caught! Touchdown, Wolverines! Roman Wilson. J.J. McCarthy threw that one off his back foot.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Play action and Boats next taking the deep shot for Johnson. How about that? Brothers, touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Take a shot down the field, looking for Odunze, and he hauled it in.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on a Friday. Closing out the month of April here pretty soon. May around the corner, the NFL draft weekend. We'll have some thoughts from last night's round one. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina here in the studio. Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross here in the studio. Emery Winter working already. We'll start to take what we have today, the next 3 hours, and build 365 Sports at 10:30 on the CW. And also, please, off the top, if you don't mind, if you haven't already, some of you like to remind everybody to hit the like and subscribe. If we have 130 or 400 people who are in the chat room, then we would love to see that 1-to-1 ratio of also the like button. Thank you very much, and spread the word if you have not. Who was the star of the show last night for the NFL draft?
I think the Bears were, because they got two excellent players. They're not going to be the star of the show for the rest of the draft because they only have two more picks. But, I like the Bears, and I would say the dud of the night was the Falcons. I like Michael Penix. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in the league. He's a really good passer, but the Falcons just gave $100 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins, so it's not like he's not going to play for them, and they're not helping him by drafting his heir apparent already.
I think as far as actual players, I think you have to say Chicago. I mean, based simply on the fact you've got Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze on the same offense now, that's fantasy booking at its finest right there. That's something that you try and pull off on Madden, but you're not always necessarily going to be able to do. And just favor and timing worked out for the Bears to where they were able to land both of those guys. And you had a thought that was in some mocks, or a combination such as that was in some mocks with the two high picks that they had, but still to actually get it done and for it to be real and to be able to put up Williams and Odunze jerseys and whatnot in your pro shop and start to market around those guys, I think just provides a incredible jolt to the city of Chicago and to the Bears fandom. So I think that's easily the biggest headline players-wise. But the star of the show last night, the stars of the show were the analysts and Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Those, to me, were the stars of the show because whether you were watching the McAfee feed with Belichick or you were watching the College Game Day feed with Nick Saban, and I forget who was even on the other one. That one I didn't even touch. The main broadcast, actually, is the one I watched the least amount of by far because I was sitting there just soaking in what Belichick was saying and Saban was saying. And Saban in particular I spent the most time on. And because he has recruited most of these guys or knows something about most of these guys, scouting against them or just being around the game long enough, he almost made everybody else up there look bad because their analysis compared to his was so sophomoric that's not the right word, but it was so almost amateur sounding compared to how in-depth he could go with some of these guys because of the personal relationships and all of that. So I thought to have those two wise men of football a part of broadcast and able to get in there and kind of break things down, that to me was very cool. And there's certainly a lot more to come from both those guys in the media world. I don't get real caught up in sports media stuff, but I do think having those two as a part of events like that or College Game Day or NFL whatever moving forward is going to be pretty cool to hear and pick their brains and hear what they have to say on just kind of every week topics.
Caleb Williams, Craig, you brought him up. His merchandise sales on the night of the draft, Caitlin Clark had just had that monstrous night with the WNBA draft a couple of weeks ago. He set the jersey record for draft night sales in any sport. And the NFL is 100th. There's no number that's bigger than anything else that is in sports in the United States. With all due respect to the rise of women's basketball, he did it with his new jersey. What number is he going to wear, Paul?
I have no idea.
18.
18, okay.
18 is going to be his number. And you're right, Odunze as a weapon, he went, golly.
Showing no respect to Mike Tomczak.
I know. Or Kyle Orton, for that matter. Or Dante Pettis, who had also once worn number 18. So Craig brought up Nick Saban. I could not agree more. I thought, and I've always liked to listen to him. I always used to go and, whether it's his show that he did on TV with Eli Gold or just his pressers, just maybe his tone or whatever, his voice, his accent. Plus, oh my God, he's won so many national titles. I thought he was absolutely freaking brilliant, and I could not stop watching that channel, which I guess was ABC, is what I was watching most of the night.
I watched NFL Network for a good while because I really enjoy Rich Eisen on the draft, and I've always liked Daniel Jeremiah. I think they've got a good thing going there. Joel Klatt's on that one. So they have good, and so that's where I started watching, and then Craig texts like, "Hey, Saban is killing it over here, on the other broadcast." So I flipped over just in time to see him admit to tampering in the portal.
Yep, I saw that.
We're trying to get Quinyon Mitchell. He wouldn't go in the portal.
Here's the exact quote, since you brought it up, right? Yeah. He was our number one guy in the portal last year to try to get him to come out of the portal, and we could never get him in the portal. And that was, that was interesting. And, of course, a lot of people noticed that very quickly. So that's from Mike Rodak on his Twitter feed.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty hilarious, all the different things that happened. I think that they have great. Yeah, Mike Rodak had a bunch of stuff from.
We'll get to
Saban.
The other two in just a second.
Yeah. But so leave him up there. But I thought he was great. He has insight. He's especially the first rounders, like even the guys he didn't get. Like, he recruited almost all of them.
Or played against them.
You're played against them. And so he has this knowledge that maybe a lot of people don't have. Now, granted, 3 years from now, that's over. But I don't think that'll stop with his ability to observe things. But especially like now in the short term, he just knew so much, and it was crazy good. And he just adds a spark to that group of people. For sure.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it almost made them feel like amateur hour besides him because their reviews of players were just so lacking compared to his, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so it was great, but it also was like, damn, Dez and Kirk, y'all are going to have to really step your games up to sound like you belong with him in comparison. That's going to be a lot of fun on College Game Day. However involved he is on a weekly basis, that's going to be money for ESPN. And like I said, I don't really get much into the sports media stuff, but that was definitely something that stood out to me last night. Was just like, wow, this is pretty cool to listen to Nick Saban talk about all these players that he's coached against, recruited, coached. Obviously, there's multiple Bama guys. He's played against Georgia. He's played against Texas. He's played against LSU. He's, recruited most of these guys, again, to say that. But, yeah, I just thought that was awesome and definitely a welcome change. I forgot about I don't have NFL Network, so I couldn't have watched that anyways. But what the main ESPN one was the one that I just wasn't even
never even
paying
turned to it
attention
because I couldn't get off ABC.
Yeah, because I was mostly watching that. Or, like I said, Belichick with McAfee. That was really good stuff as well. Belichick showing a different side to his personality. Saw a lot of folks that don't like him as a Patriots head coach, but are already fans of his as a media guy. And so, have those two guys in the same night with the NFL draft, giving their breakdowns from their different points of view was certainly a different kind of thing from just the typical draft coverage and just what we walk away with our opinions on picks. It just provided something kind of new and cool, so I enjoyed that.
Has anyone won more Super Bowls than Belichick?
No.
Anyone won more national championships than Saban?
No.
So you have those two guys who all of a sudden are in the analyst business on television, and Belichick's his personality is like watching paint dry or grass grow, but the guy knows football. Like Matt Rule said, is that he is you can't he knows so much that guys like Rule and his staff were just dumbfounded by how much information they could learn.
Yeah, and I don't think that's really true about his personality. I think if you watch some of it last night, you see he's got a personality. It's just that we saw the grizzled
about from the press conferences. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is we saw the grizzled coach up at the podium not wanting to be there every week, and that's not who's on TV. That's Bill Belichick's actually on TV, not the coach Bill Belichick. So there is a major difference there, which is why I think so many people, as I pointed out, were saying like, wow, I didn't like this guy, but now I do, because I didn't realize he was funny. I didn't realize he was, goofing around with the boys and all that kind of stuff. So, he's already shown a different side of himself, and so we're going to be blessed with some pretty brilliant minds in football analysis over the coming, couple years and however long beyond that.
And then obviously the Terry and Arnold, who was drafted near the end of the first round, Detroit picked him. That's the second one. I want to read this because it was so cool. And he shows this, again, this kind of sense of humor. He talks about he's a special guy, great personality, loves him. Everybody loves him. He came up with the length thing, let all naysayers know. He sort of followed it, sort of committed himself to being the best player and a leader. Miss Terry's favorite, they're close. Of course, that's his wife, Terry Saban, who's very much involved in the program as far as because of who she is, and that's Miss Terry's favorite. So he also had her liking him too.
Well, and they've got there's so many players you can talk about, just so many. And Terry and Arnold in the first round, J.C. Latham in the first round that he had. So going to have more to talk about over the next couple days. It was wild to watch, and I'm sure we had Jeff Traylor on yesterday, who just sounded beat down by this last week and waiting for the transfer portal to close. And then you have Nick Saban, who, just left the top of the mountaintop saying,
and doesn't have to worry about any of it.
Doesn't worry about it, but we really wanted to get this guy in the portal, and he wouldn't do it. Yeah.
By the way, on the Terry and Arnold now being teamed with Brian Branch, another Alabama guy, he's talking about he's the natural star. That's that position that has become that safety and linebacker type clone or hybrid, like Baylor and Jalen Petrie, among others. There's not a lot of guys you can find to do that. You can find to do it right. And so that was another note he had about those two being on the same Lions roster. All right. Polynesia. There were 15% of the top 20 players selected during the draft with the representation 1/3 of 1% of the U.S. population. Paul sent that one in. I thought that was a pretty cool one.
And look, I spent almost a month the last 2 years combined in Hawaii, and every time I told somebody what I did, like if I'm sitting at a bar or I was in a car or something, and they say, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I have a podcast. I talk mostly about football. This, I would say, the per capita love of football in that region of the world compares to it here. How much they love the sport. Now, they don't have gigantic high schools. In fact, their high school stadium's outside of Punahou, which is a big, gigantic high school. And even then, Punahou wouldn't register on the, middle range of a 4A school, as far as what the stadiums are here, but like they love it. They absolutely love football. That's all Well, everybody want to talk to me about Tua.
Yeah,
guys.
A lot of influence with USC, UCLA, Washington, BYU, Utah, with a lot of influence with those players from the Polynesia background. How the hell did we can get into Michael Penix in Atlanta, and we will. But what's the deal with Bo Nix going that early, too?
Yeah, I think part of it was the Broncos felt they needed to come out of there with a quarterback. Sean Payton sees him as a guy who's similar to Drew Brees in stature. And look, Drew Brees did not have the best arm strength in the world. He wasn't, but he wound up being one of the all-time leading passer for a little while before Tom Brady broke that record. But Drew Brees and Bo Nix are definitely not the same guy. Sean Payton feels like he can coach him up. That's fine, but
wouldn't he have gotten him?
But I think that's the problem. They don't pick again until like 76.
Okay,
so
right.
There's a lot of picks there. So they said, well, if this is our guy, we'll go get him. But yeah, they need more picks and more players. The Broncos have a lot longer way to go, I think, than Sean Payton even realized. They traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, and that was a player that most people liked, but couldn't really stay healthy, and then never had a good quarterback there. And now there's talk of them maybe even trading Cortland Sutton as well. And to me, that would be a very bad move because Cortland Sutton's a good player. Again, never had good quarterback play, but might find his way to another team.
How many quarterbacks were taken after Bo Nix?
None.
Zero. So it was a run on quarterbacks. That's what it was, and he was the last guy that somebody felt was worthy enough of a first-round pick. Whether Denver's right or wrong, I mean, somebody's going to be wrong in this many quarterbacks taken this highly. There's going to be teams that look really stupid. Atlanta probably leading the list right now, just with one day in the books. We'll see what other goofy decisions are made, but it's going to be hard to top what Atlanta did with Michael Penix. But, I mean, once they did that, then it was all bets are off. I mean, the Vikings are going to take a quarterback. I said J.J. McCarthy, by the way, and they found a way. They didn't have to trade up to get him. They just sat where they were. Or I guess they went up a spot.
I think that to guarantee they got him.
To guarantee they got him.
The Broncos are right there.
Yeah, so I guess they did actually trade up, like I said, but it wasn't to like 5 or 6 like I thought they might have to. So that was just funny to see that actually come to fruition. But, yeah, once he was taken – the only guy left there to even justify was Bo Nix. I mean, who's it now? Michael Pratt? Well, he's not. He wasn't going to go in the first. I mean, there comes
Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. I mean, I guess we could hear his name tonight. We'll hear his name tonight. But that was what it was. Is Sean Payton needed a quarterback, and there was one guy remaining that he happened to actually like, and so they went with Bo Nix. But yeah, that seemed awfully high, and that was one of those moves that a lot of I guess just instant reaction kind of balked at. And so that's one that you circle and you look back in a couple years, and that's either a Zach Wilson type pick or it's one where he's going to be like, listen to me, that's why I'm Sean freaking Payton, and I know what I'm doing with quarterbacks. But
Zach Wilson's a teammate with him now, right?
Yeah, he is.
In Denver.
But he was a big draft bust is what he was before being his
Jarrett
teammate.
Stidham is also on the roster at that quarterback. That'll be interesting who comes out of that mix and who ends up being their starter.
I'm just saying it's interesting that Jordan Travis is not mentioned, and he beat Jaden Daniels twice. He beat Drake May once.
Yeah, Garrett, hey, by the way, what say you? I saw 3 LSU players go very high. All of them spectacular weapons, including the quarterback and 2 receivers.
Correct.
How in the hell did LSU lose a game?
Just absolutely terrible defensive play.
How many defensive draft picks did they have in the first round last night?
They had none. You're going to have Mekhi Wingo that's in the draft that he'll probably get selected tonight or possibly tomorrow. But, yeah, the defensive play was pathetic. The running back play, they had no Jaden Daniels did everything on the ground. There was no way to alleviate the pressure from that. So there was just little intangible things there, and I hope you've got to fix it. You've got to fix it because it's inexcusable to have that much talent.
If they're going to get people picked, it's going to be defensive linemen, corners.
You would think.
So here are the and I know, Craig, you brought this up, but this is a neat nugget to me. The conferences in the first round. SEC at the top, not a surprise. Look at a conference that no longer exists. Had a team play for the national title and also had 8 first-round picks. And we knew that. They were loaded last year, not just a quarterback. They were loaded across the board, and yet they could not find a way to understand what their, I guess, clout might have been because of their arrogance. But there's 8 in the Big Ten, ACC, and the Big 12, the 5 largest conferences, with at least 4 of them still left. that's how the first round went.
You said the word death by arrogance. I mean, that's what it was, and that was clearly what it was in the end. But, yeah, there's a lot of mourning from Pac-12 fans, rightfully so. You see something like that. You see somebody in the college football playoff final competing for a national championship, and all of that is for naught in the long run of the Pac-12. So hell of a goodbye year, hell of a year to go out. I mean, about as good as you could have expected or hoped for, other than Washington winning the title or somebody other than Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman, and certainly they had contenders for that as well. Bo Nix, Michael Penix were right there in the mix for it. So, it was if you were hoping for a great send-off, I think you got it. But, yeah, it's also depressing, and it pisses you off if you're a Pac-12 fan that you have this kind of success and you have more coming down the pipeline potentially, and it's all going to be occurring in other leagues because of arrogance, number one, and a variety of other factors that trickle down as well. So I've seen a lot of that, last night, and rightfully so. 8 first-round picks is a big dadgum deal, and that's what they'll go out with. So a really nice number, but, the end of an era to be sure.
Byron Murphy, not a surprise, went midway through the first round, had a hell of a year, heck of a player, and then obviously the Big 12 with 3 names, including what I thought, and I remember, I don't know, Paul, if it was you or whoever else it was, that said Kansas City should get Xavier Worthy.
Well,
and they traded up, and they got him. And one of the tweets last night that I saw, this was on mentioning when I was sitting there looking at some of the reviews this morning, that a general manager in the AFC West effed me when they saw that Worthy was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, look, and the thing about that is, like, you go and you play for Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to be really good right away. You can just kind of be good at your thing before you get good at all of it. My concern with Worthy is just he's a little dude, and
throw 3 times for 113 yards and a touchdown of 56 among those numbers.
Yeah, so those things will be. I think he'll be fine. Special teams, again, he's another guy whose value increased to me with the new kickoff rule, in that if you have multiple guys who can take back the kickoff, or you can put on the kickoff team that you can run actual plays out of that formation now. We saw some like reverses and end around kind of things in the XFL a year ago that worked out really well. The more cool things you can do off of that, the better. And so his value's up. Again, if he can stay healthy and then learn, how to be an NFL wide receiver, he's going to be a weapon. I don't think he's going to be Tyreek Hill, because I think Tyreek Hill's a bit unique in what he can do, but he's certainly that kind of fast.
The Tyreek Hill with the quick twitch is what seems like is the difference there. Craig, what do you think? Kansas City, Mahomes has now what? Hollywood Brown. There was another receiver that they picked up.
Well, they have Rashee Rice eventually.
Rashee Rice, I don't know about that. And now you have Xavier Worthy. I saw where Mahomes had those sunglasses look. They've won a lot of world championships, and when you get into that kind of run, this is the kind of move you make.
It's a luxury to have, but they did need some help at wide receiver. They clearly missed Tyreek Hill. As good as they still are, they still miss a weapon like him, and he's not a carbon copy like you said, but he's a burner who's the fastest 40 time in combine history, as you heard mentioned quite a bit last night, and he's a deep threat. He's a guy who can make big plays. He's super fast. To reiterate that's just his biggest trait. But, Xavier Worthy is a really good wide receiver who's landing in a perfect spot. I can't imagine he's any more thrilled than had anybody else. I just can't imagine how thrilled he is, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when he got the phone call and it's the freaking Kansas City Chiefs of all teams to go play in that offense and play for Patrick Mahomes. Yep. What more could you ask for? And it does feel like Kansas City just sat on a horseshoe one day and, have been just blessed ever since. That pick of Patrick Mahomes completely changed the entire everything about that organization, and they don't seem to miss now. They don't seem to ever falter. Even when things don't work out, they work out for them in the long run somehow or another anyway. So, they've been blessed, and There is no end in sight to their reign of terror. You forgot a little guy by the name of Travis Kelce is also part of those weapons. I know you're just mentioning wide receivers, but of course he's kind of one there and very much a wide receiver in some ways. So, yeah, I mean, Mahomes has got another toy, and we'll see what else he's got by the end of the weekend. But it does seem unfair. And just the dumbest part about it is who gave them the pick to go get Xavier Worthy.
Buffalo.
I mean, it's the Buffalo Bills, and I've seen some funny reactions from some of their fans' live streams of what their initial reactions were when that pick came down. It was just funny to see some of those and just the disbelief or the anger or you just laugh after a while because it's just like, of course that's how it happened. We just gave the Chiefs Xavier Worthy. Like, what are we doing here? So yeah, that's a pick that's going to reverberate for a while, and we'll see if he can help them add to the Lombardi case, but it really revolves around that quarterback. You give him weapons, he's going to get the most out of them. So Xavier Worthy is a guy that I'd circle about, having a pretty nice rookie year. And, when you start to do your little fantasy lineups and who could be the breakout guys in year one, well, pairing that speed with Patrick Mahomes and that offense, that's going to be pretty scary, I would think.
2 different players drafted whose fathers had played in the NFL. Chargers drafted Notre Dame offensive lineman Joe Alt. His dad, John, played with the Chiefs. And then also Marvin Harrison Jr., selected number 4 overall. And Marvin Sr., of course, had a great career with Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, came out of Syracuse.
So, Amanda, we were watching the draft last night, and I said, there goes Marv Jr., and she goes, is his dad not there? And the hug was so quick, and Marvin Harrison was off camera so much, they had to go back and show it because I guess it was NFL Network at the time. They saw him get up, and he high-fived everybody and hugged, and then you could tell they're well, we definitely need to go make the point that the Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison is here with his son, but he was so quick to get off camera. It was wild.
Yeah, he's not looking for that attention. That's very clear. But yeah, he had a cool Junior had a cool chain and pendant that he had put together. That was cool. Had a cool story. It's kind of a life story, I guess, in some ways, right? I mean, the Pop Warner and to where he is now, and
to the Lion King.
Yeah, to the Lion King and all that incorporated. I thought was it's a really creative kind of thing that you had there on the red carpet, and just the kind of fashion point of view of last night. So yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud, and he's obviously got good genes. We'll see how he and Pop stack up when all is said and done their careers, but he's obviously got huge shoes to fill because his dad was a menace and very, very good. But yeah, I think Junior's going to be A-okay, and Kyler Murray's got a fun weapon to play with, and hopefully that means something good for the Cardinals because they're just kind of there right now, it feels like. But this ought to add a little bit of juice.
This was the most offensive players ever chosen in the first round, 23 of the 32. The record before was 19, most recently in 2009. And so a heavy dose of the offensive players, including quarterback after quarterback. Harrison interrupted that, then quarterback and quarterback. So now, why would you spend $100 million on a veteran quarterback who compiles stats, no question, in Kirk Cousins, Washington, Minnesota, and then at number 8 in the draft, and I saw a clip of the general manager, Fontenot, talking to Arthur Blank, the owner of Atlanta, and I don't know, even as of now, if Arthur Blank understands why the Falcons picked Michael Penix.
Yeah, that was an interesting run on the quarterbacks. I mean, you mentioned why the Broncos do what they did with Bo Nix, because there was clearly a run, and there was clearly a level 1 and then like a level 2 that we'll see get underway tonight with Jordan Travis maybe. Where's he projected, Paul? I don't even know.
Jordan Travis is fourth round.
So tonight will be Michael Pratt and who else? A couple of other guys maybe?
Rattler.
I want to keep forgetting Spencer Rattler.
If you're the agent of those two guys, you're pretty thrilled.
I would say Rattler and Pratt are the only ones who go tonight.
So you see why there's a run on those guys for those teams that needed quarterbacks, but I think it just got expedited when you have Michael Penix all of a sudden go when he's not expected to go. That just I think put everybody took everybody aback a little bit, and so yeah, that was shocking to see him go. And then I think the Vikings were taking somebody either way, but that certainly changed. I don't know if Bo Nix goes where he went if Penix doesn't get drafted right there by Atlanta.
Only Denver knows that.
Yeah, only Denver knows that. But I do think that's kind of the curveball we saw that maybe helped further lead to Bo Nix. But regardless, that was shocking and makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't I've seen Falcons fans, and not really many at all, but try to justify it and then just give up halfway through, or try to spin it and just get shouted down because it's utter stupidity. Now, if Kirk Cousins goes and gets hurt, that's one thing, but the whole point of it is you didn't have to sign him to begin with for the money that you did that's guaranteed to begin with. So that was just incredibly puzzling.
He didn't know. Kirk Cousins did not know.
That was incredibly puzzling.
How did you not tell him?
You told him when you were drafting Michael Penix. I guess it was a very knee-jerk reaction. It clearly wasn't a planned-out reaction. Because if you were planning on doing that, you would have said beforehand, like, hey, we're going into the draft tonight, and we're going to draft a quarterback if somebody's there, when in reality they told him while they were already walking to the podium, basically. So it was shocking for everybody, and even for Arthur Blank it looked like, but man alive, you talk about a pick that you look back on in like a couple years and you just see where things stand, and this is going to be one of those like all-timers one way or the other potentially.
If they win Super Bowls with either one of the guys, it's probably not a bad pick.
No, of course not.
But the thing is that Kirk Cousins is at the end of his career. This is maybe not his last contract, because you might be able to squeeze another couple of years out of it after this first 2 years of getting $100 million. But in the 2 years, you've already taken away a first-round pick that can help him. At 8, you could have drafted Roma Dunze. You could have drafted an offensive lineman. You could have drafted a cornerback, which you need desperately in Atlanta. You could have done any of those things, but you drafted a guy who, if everything goes according to plan A, won't take a snap this year.
Mm-hmm. Or next year. Or
next
the year after. And, here's the thing. He's not young either.
No, he's 24.
So they're talking about him being like, if he waits for he's going to be 27 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That was just so bizarre and out of complete nowhere. And I really don't think, if our quarterback gets hurt, we've got a good backup. So you spend a top 15 pick on a backup, for a guy, after just signing the other guy to a massive guaranteed contract. That was just wild. And so
Kirk Cousins had the same thing happen, except the opposite when he was drafted the same year when RG3 was drafted.
The only person who sat on a bigger horseshoe than the Kansas City Chiefs was Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Honestly, I know he's upset, but dude, you're guaranteed $100 million and you're going to be the starting quarterback. So yeah, you're stunned and you're probably a little upset, but if you're not going to get beat out by Kirk Cousins, and if you do, you're still guaranteed $100 million. So, I don't think he loses in this situation either way. It's great security, but it still just feels so strange that they did that. It's almost like they had a lapse in reality or something, panicked or I don't know. It was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, unless they just fell in love with him even later than we did. Yeah.
They spoke about that. They Cowboys did clearly, but still just to make that move when they did and how they did was interesting.
Cowboys traded back. Paul, you said that's what they might do. Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones wanted to say he wanted to wait for more leaves to fall, which I still never understood. I guess, wanted to see more leaves fall. Well, yesterday Detroit signed theirs. A.J. Brown signed a 3-year, $90-something million deal. So leaves have fall. It's going to cost them more money for CeeDee Lamb. The way he explains things and the analogies to me are beyond just weird.
Yeah.
And yet that's not breaking news.
Yeah, his reaction. Bottom line is I haven't had time to think about it, but that's exactly what I was talking about, especially with those receivers now. Nobody was moving too fast to get involved. Now I just don't care to or even will express any thoughts about the contract or the impact of those contracts. Well, yeah, because you could have had yours done well before. Now it's going to cost him.
Now
it's going to cost you more. That's the thing he's not getting. And then this sounds like Jerry just got caught in a I said that thing, and then 2 leaves fell right after I said that. Well, yeah, they're going to keep falling. And what are you waiting for? What deal are you going to make with CeeDee Lamb that's just going to make you such a winner? Jerry the deal maker is starting to get really irritating. But Will McClay, the deal maker, or whoever made this deal with the Lions, I like it. I don't like that they didn't get Graham Barton. I really wanted him, and they could have taken him because he went right after to the Bucks. But I do like Tyler Guyton. I think that's going to be a guy. He didn't allow any sacks last year at Oklahoma. He doesn't commit a lot of penalties. He's really, really, really talented
Allows
player.
Tyler Smith to play perhaps where he's been playing.
Yeah, Smith can stay. They do need to draft a center or find one that's better than Brock Hoffman right now. So we'll see that happen. I'm okay with them doing what they did because they needed picks, and getting an extra 3rd-round pick for that Excellent.
All right,
good work.
we'll have Grayson Grundhafer around the corner. John Machota will join us at around 4 to look back at the Cowboys, what they did and what they need to do. And also, Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire also will join us. Later in the show today, John Cooper, our last guide to the NFL draft, on what he saw, what he's the good, the bad, and weird, strange, what the heck, and then also maybe the expectations of tonight. A.D. Mitchell still available. Thought he might slip into the end of the first round. Jonathan Brooks is going to be the first running back taken. We'll have those stories and even more. One of the other things about tonight, or the show today, Tim Maloney, he was on Baylor's staff with Scott Drew. He's been on Rick Pitino's staff. He's been on Billy Donovan's staff before. A longtime basketball coach. He's a historian when it comes to storytelling about many things basketball. His thoughts about how Scott Drew, in his opinion, will respond to losing Alvin Brooks III a couple of days ago, and also how these coaches have now had their opportunities, are getting their opportunities to be a part of what is their own opportunity as a head coach, or in Brooks' case at Kentucky with Mark Pope. We'll have some college basketball news as well. Good day for KU. And we'll do this later on. ESPN with their way too early top 25 and where the Big 12 teams are inside the top 10. When we come back, Grayson Grundhafer, the transfer portal, men's basketball, transfer portal, Baylor football, and also recruiting. All of that and more. 365 Sports, we appreciate you being here today. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How can you do that? How can he help you do that? Go to his website, PettyClinicLowT.com. You can call him or you can contact them. An email address is listed. Tell them if you feel like the symptoms are there as you've gotten into your mid to upper 30s or maybe 40s, and sometimes it may take even longer than that, or not at all. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Maybe that is you. You're lethargic. You're not sleeping well. You've gained some body fat, and you're pretty active, and you have a nice diet. So that doesn't make sense. That could be testosterone, and your sex drive is not the same. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com. Contact him. They will set you up and take care of your blood work, and then get the results. And if your results and your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program so you could become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, where the thrill of the drive meets unbeatable savings. Feel the adrenaline as you conquer the road in a 2023 Dodge Durango RT, now with a jaw-dropping $12,500 off. Or unleash the power of the 2023 Dodge Charger Challenger RT, now available with remarkable $11,000 off. Feel the rush of pure performance and style as you dominate the urban jungle. Don't miss your chance to experience the thrill of Dodge Power Shot Days. Hurry in and claim these incredible savings before they're gone. Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here we go, this 3 o'clock hour. Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com, and also 365 Sports recruiting analyst, director for what we do, and also co-host of the Bearcast on Tuesdays. And then football analyst, too, but also men's basketball. Grayson, thanks for your time. Of the players who have entered the portal, were those just, and I hate to say it, like that's natural and good attrition? Anybody that's left that you feel like will be a problem or be a tough to replace, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that any time that a player leaves a program who you had high hopes for, high expectations for, I think anytime that happens, you're obviously going to have this kind of mindset of, what if, or what could be, or what the future may hold for that specific player. And, I'm not going to lie, guys like Jordan Neighbors and Armani Winfield, they were guys that I felt like were going to be really good players at Baylor. And I think that many people felt that way as well, based on their recruiting rankings. And, things just didn't work out for one reason or another. But I would say this, losing guys who are third string on the depth chart for a team that just went 3-9 last year, and you get to open up those spots for an opportunity to find a guy who's going to come in and potentially play either start or be in the 2 deep. That's just more important for Baylor at this point. And that's something that I know this staff has, I'm not going to say they've struggled with it, but I think they've had to change their approach this year. And a lot of that is because they have to win this year. And they got to find ways to add more talent. They got to find ways to win on the margins, and they got to find ways to add the necessary depth to get through an entire season in the Big 12. So, yeah, I think that all of the losses, while unfortunate, are losses that they needed, and I actually think they need even more attrition than that.
Grayson, the time window, though, is kind of a crunch, though, right? But they've reached out to a lot of guys. They've had a lot of visits. How quickly do you expect them to fill the spots, and with guys who are plug-and-play contributors? I would pause at saying starters just because that might be with such a short amount of time realistic for all of them, but plug-and-play regular contributors.
Yeah, definitely. So they're actually going to have their first visitors this weekend, and I think it starts tomorrow for all of the transfer portal targets. They only have 3 of them coming on campus this weekend, so it's basically 3 priority guys. And I think when you kind of go through the list of guys that they got coming, whether it's Texas Southern defensive lineman Linus Knoll, a guy who would be plug and play for Baylor at nose tackle. He's about 320 pounds, and after Baylor's loss of Trey Emery and Jarrell Boykins due to medical retirement, they really need someone like him to come in, solidify the nose tackle position, also give them just a bigger body that can really hold up against the run. This is the kind of guy who, you just look at his PFF grade, for instance, he graded out 87.5, which was 14th in the nation against the run. So really, really good against the run. And yes, it's Texas Southern, But you still need guys like that. And I think it's pretty clear what his skill set is and the role he would play for Baylor if he were to join. The competition there is Arkansas, which is where he's at today. And then he'll potentially be at Maryland next week if he doesn't make a commitment decision after his Baylor visit. Another guy who's visiting is Western Kentucky Jacquez Evans. Another guy who, again, Paul, I think this is a plug-and-play guy, and a guy who I do think would potentially start for them. I think it's a little blurry right now because they do have Garmin Randolph and Steve Lenton at Jack who they really like, but they're going to be running more of a peso package a lot of times, which is going to be 2 Jacks and then 2 interior defensive linemen. And when they run that, Jacquez Evans will definitely be in the starting rotation. And, you look at a guy like that, if he does ultimately commit to Baylor, this is a guy that's more proven than any defensive lineman or edge guy on Baylor's roster. I mean, he had an incredible 2022 season with All-Conference USA first team, had 13.5 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and 27 quarterback hurries. He's had a really good career, and he would be a guy who would be immediate impact. And right now the challenger there is kind of Louisville. He just visited there. And I'm sure there will be others, but I do think Baylor's in a good spot with him because Jamar Chaney came from Western Kentucky. He was his position coach there. And then also Kendrick Simpkins, who is now at Baylor at Star, played with him as well at Western Kentucky. So those are 2 big names that Baylor has on campus tomorrow, and 2 names that I do believe would be instant impacting guys who would start for me.
So on the other end of things, losing guys, they lost a couple of commits this week in 25 offensive linemen, Jamin Brown, and then also the big quarterback commit in Adam Schobel to Oklahoma State as he made a high-profile flip. Just what's the feel? I mean, it's obviously a weird time for Baylor because there's just not a lot to build on. I mean, it's hard to get momentum going when you don't have anything really proven outside of 3 seasons ago to really build off of. So I know they've got to hit the portal heavy, but on the high school recruiting side, how do you feel about things, and what do those 2 decommits mean, if anything, to you?
Right. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think when you have a guy like Adam Schobel committed, it's definitely something that increases the fan engagement. It makes fans really excited. It's something where he's a 4-star quarterback, so it helps with your recruiting rankings, which, again, that matters to Baylor this year. We've seen that. They care about the recruiting rankings this season. So obviously losing him, the recruiting rankings took a hit. They went from being inside the top 15 to now they're just outside the top 30. So obviously a big shift there. So losing a guy like Schobel, it's a big thing, and you're losing him to a Big 12 competitor. And, he's very talented. I've always thought that he is definitely a 4-star type guy, will be an Elite 11 type quarterback. But I will also say that there is a little bit of room where you sit there and go, well, Baylor's pretty much taken transfer portal quarterbacks the last 2 years, and you can find guys in the transfer portal who have a lot of talent, who were Elite 11 quarterbacks, who didn't get to play at their previous stop, and then you can bring them to Baylor. So there's a way that you can kind of makeshift your recruiting for the quarterback position that really wasn't there in the past. And so while, yes, missing on a high-profile quarterback like that out of the high school ranks is a big deal, there is also a way to supplement that. So I guess that's the positive side of that. Jamin Brown, the kid from Alabama who you mentioned, Craig, the offensive lineman, he was my top-graded offensive lineman in this class for Baylor that Baylor had committed. I think he's a 4-star type prospect as well. Very talented, very big, very athletic. I think there's going to be a lot of offers that come his way pretty soon. It's tough to hold on to a commit from Alabama. Just being realistic, especially when you've had 2 coaching changes at the offensive line position. So that made things a little bit tougher. But outside of that, again, the official visits are this weekend. They have 3 4-star prospects on the defensive side of the football, and then they have a 3-star offensive lineman on campus as well. So they're still doing some things to make up for it. But it was a very interesting week. Let's just a lot of talking points, I think, among Baylor fans about the loss of Adam Schobel.
Yeah, and Grayson, the reality is that Baylor's going to be able to get some, keep them, and sign them. And then you hope also play before they end up looking elsewhere. But this is like always been the case, is it not? Because they've had some stretches where they were able to get some high-level guys like Robbie Rhodes or KD Cannon or whoever else, but this is something that it's almost hard to, if you're a Baylor fan or someone like you that covers the recruiting, it's almost hard to get locked in once somebody commits, or am I wrong?
Right. I mean, I think it is sometimes hard to be locked in. I think the Austin Novosad thing definitely made things even tougher when you think about the quarterback position specifically, just because, it was a last day of recruiting flip. And so I know that really jaded a lot of people's perspective on the recruiting side of things, especially for the quarterback position. But I mean, you are right. I mean, this does happen. It's not new. Oklahoma State has always been a competitor in recruiting as well. And you're going to have teams that come in and they're battling too. They're trying to get their best class they can possibly put together as well. And that's what Baylor's trying to do also. But I mean, it is a situation where these things do happen. And now it's just about, where do you go from here? How do you make sure that you're able to fill that void in the class? How do you make sure that you're able to keep the quarterback room really healthy, which it is right now? And then how are you able to increase that recruiting ranking? Because like I said, that is a big deal to the staff this year, unlike it really has been in a long time, I would say. I really think they care about the recruiting ranking for this 2025 class, and I think they're going to continue to really try to add some pieces to make sure that stays as high as it possibly can.
Grayson, what would you say they absolutely have to do before the portal closes?
Yeah, I think I think there's a few things that they absolutely have to address, and there's no way around this. They have to address the offensive line. To me, just based on kind of how I look at it, I think they need a guard, at least one proven commodity at guard, to make sure that if Daneker isn't healthy or, if Omar Agbedian, has trouble adapting to Big 12 play from Montana State, or if you need a little bit of a rotation there, that you have someone you really trust who could be the starter day one, but could also be extremely reliable in the 2 deep. I think they absolutely need to do that. And then I think personally they need a tackle. A starting tackle, right tackle specifically. I just think that you could get an upgrade there. And if you take a right tackle, that's another, kind of situation where you could play that guy on the interior as well if you need to. But I think those two positions specifically they need to address on the offensive line. And then on the defensive side, it's all about the interior of the defensive line. And that's what a guy like Linus Noel would definitely solve. They need a big body. They need a physical presence. They need someone who can stop the run and somebody who just, frankly does not move. And when you look at Baylor's best defenses, the last, 2019 and 2021, those have been the best Baylor defenses, really in a long time. They both had one thing in common. They had multiple, but one very big thing in common, and it was having a guy like a Bravion Roy or a guy like an Apuika, and having those two guys who just really took up space, but also were extremely strong and physical and really just set a tone for the defense. And I mean, that comes in a lot of situations. When you think about 4th and 1 and you've got to be able to get a stop, or you think about goal line situations and you have to get a stop in short yardage, those guys really shine. And that's something that Baylor has not had, and it's something they absolutely need in the transfer portal. Even if it's not as big as those guys, even if you're not getting a guy that's 340 or 350, just somebody that you find to be extremely reliable at stopping the run, I think it is very, very important for them.
On the basketball side of things, Alvin Brooks is now officially at Kentucky. Noah Boyed, a 7-footer, decommitted as well. Your thoughts on just sort of where the program finds itself and the loss of Alvin Brooks?
Right. I mean, it's obviously a tough loss. Alvin has been such a great recruiter for this program and a really, really good coach as well. And he's going to be missed. There's no doubt about that. I think that there are ways that Baylor's going to be able to solve this, because obviously you still have your head coach and Scott Drew, who has gone through these type of changes before. And I think that everyone has full confidence that he's going to be able to do it again. But I do think Alvin is a guy that was an integral part of what they were doing recruiting-wise. They're going to have to change some things up there. But I think in general, this program is in such a good spot. I think you look at the roster that they've built. They've added Jeremy Roach. They're in on quite a few different transfer portal prospects, including Jonas Adu, the big Tennessee center. And they're probably looking for a wing as well. And they might be able to take another guard with Noah Boye decommitting. So they're going to have some room here to potentially bring in some guys, bring in some more talent, and really try to load up this roster to see if they can't make a deeper run in the postseason next year. I think most of the early rankings are going to have them as a top 10 team, maybe even a top 5 team once they're done with their transfer portal recruiting. So I think they're in a pretty good spot. I will say, though, one thing to keep in mind if you're a men's basketball fan or a Baylor men's basketball fan, the Big 12 is just going to be loaded again. And, Kansas has loaded up in the transfer portal. Iowa State's done a great job. Houston as well. Oh, and then you're also bringing in Arizona from the Pac-12 as well. So this conference is not going to get any easier. It's going to be a gauntlet. But I think Baylor's in a great spot because they do have one of at least the top 2 coaches in the Big 12, in my opinion.
Going back to a couple of things you said football-wise about having that fire hydrant inside, there are some schools that might be fortunate to have one, and they still want another one. Isn't that basically, other than a quarterback, the number one thing that people are looking for is that big run-stopping Willie McGinnis or whoever you want to say type of player, and there just aren't that many of them around?
It definitely feels that way. And you've seen there have been a couple guys who have actually entered the portal and then gone back to their schools. So entered the portal for a couple days and then went right back because those schools were probably freaking out just at the prospect of, if we don't have this guy, our season is completely different. And so, there are a lot of programs that I think do need that and do want that. There are a few guys that enter that you can potentially see kind of fitting that role, but there aren't that many. And so you got to be very selective. You got to find guys that you're able to build a good relationship with who fit kind of the culture at Baylor and really find Baylor intriguing, and also getting those guys on one of the earlier visits. That's really important because a lot of these guys, those first 2 visits, they end up committing. So if you're able to kind of make that happen quickly, that's definitely ideal. But you're right. That is an area that I think every school in the country is desperately trying to fill, that area, as well as the offensive line, which we've talked about that Baylor is obviously on the look for as well.
A&M has lost a couple of them in the portal. The Bryce Foster's one, and also had another one, I think, the next day. I think I saw a note where you said one of them, at least Baylor, has reached out to them. Are either one of those, what is the likelihood either one, coming from an SEC school, coming from A&M, would end up at Baylor?
I think the likelihood of them talking to Baylor is probably really high because you're talking about Bryce Foster and then Colton Thomason.
Yep.
Both kind of fit a different mold, though. Bryce Foster would be a guy that you would bring in to start immediately. He did play center at A&M, and I know, Colton Price has, kind of been entrenched at the center position since the middle of last year. But, if you can get a guy like Bryce Foster, you're going to move some things around and you're going to figure it out because you just got to have talent and you got to take the most talent that you possibly can. Even if that means one of them moving, I think you would do that because Bryce Foster, in my eyes, would be a best available type prospect. Colton Thomason, who's the other one that you mentioned, he was a 4-star prospect, but he's a younger prospect and a guy that I think if you brought him in, he'd be in the 2 deep. But I don't know if he would exactly kind of be guaranteed or, penned into a starting role. So that would probably be one where it's more of you try to get him on campus, try to hope that talent really pans out. But I do think he's one where you might not feel exceptionally confident that you're getting a starter out of the transfer portal. And I do think Baylor needs at least 2 starters or 2 guys that you at least grade out to being starter quality, even if that means they're just in the top 8. And then hopefully they have room to bring in one more, a younger guy like a Colton Thomason, because I do think that would fit kind of what they need as well, just trying to upgrade the talent in that group as a whole.
Good luck dealing with all that. Grayson kept catching up with it, figuring it out, because it does seem to be so fluid, maybe more now than before, not just because of decommitments, the transfer portal, whatever else. Thank you very much, Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com and 365 Sports recruiting analyst and football analyst too. All right, when we come back, John Machota. Cowboys last night traded down. found a way to be able to maybe fill a position. They get an extra pick in the third round. What do they need to do tonight? Your thoughts about that, and should they have done something different in his opinion? All that and more, 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Two things they do that are just so great for you, has been for me. One, they have a state-of-the-art MRI and imaging machine. Absolutely state-of-the-art. I've been in it 3 different times. My lower back, my shoulder, and also my abdomen. And I've gotten the images before the end of the day. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners built this with the goal to help you find out what is bothering you or what your doctor wants better images of or what they want evidence of with a muscle, a ligament, or something else, and also not to break your budget. The average MRI is around $1,100. Theirs is $497 every single time, and might be less because they'll help you file the insurance papers if, in fact, you can get a little bit back from that, too. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in the southern part of Waco will get what you need when it comes to evidence of what hurts you, what is shutting you down. You can't function, you can't sleep, and it's just tiresome. And your doctor wants a better look. And IdealMRI.com can find that for you, and also $497 or less at IdealMRI.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Cowboys traded down, picked up an extra third-round pick. Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma. They need to replace Tyron Smith. That won't be easy to do. It's hard to just replace somebody that's a pretty decent left tackle. John Machota, theathletic.com with us. Tyler Guyton being introduced today inside the locker room and also in Frisco at the Star. John, did they do the right thing?
I really think they did. And it's, we're at a time right now where whether you talk about that embarrassing loss to the Packers in the playoffs, or you talk about their lack of activity in free agency, or not talking or about re-signing Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. There's just a lot of things that you've been able to be critical about the Cowboys for, several months now. And I think this is one of those things where if you're going to be fair about it, you have to say that it was a great move for them. And I think it would have been a good pick at 24, but the fact that you trade back to 29, you gain a third in a draft where you desperately needed more picks. So you have another top 100 pick, and you still get a guy that you really liked at 24 at a major position of need at left tackle, and it allows you to keep Tyler Smith, your all-pro left guard, at left guard. This is a time of year where people like to hand out draft grades, and that's become such a popular thing. I don't know how the harshest of graders could give this anything less than a B, but I think it was an A.
John, tonight they have 3 picks, 56, 73, and 87. Does it have to be, in any order, center, linebacker, running back?
Yeah, I do think it's those 3 spots. And I would say in the second round here coming up, I think linebacker is the favorite just because of – I find it hard to believe that they're going to draft 3 straight offensive players. I think that they need to do something on defense, whether it be linebacker or defensive tackle. And you just look at the players that are there still on the board. And when you talk about linebacker, it's Edgerrin Cooper, it's, Junior Colson, it's Peyton Wilson. I mean, there's just a lot of good linebackers that you'd think one of these guys could be there for them. And it's such a position of need for this defense. So I would say linebacker in the second round is probably the favorite. And then with those 2 third-round picks, I think that's where they get their running back and then their eventual, replacement for Tyler Biadasz at center. And so that lines up pretty well for them. Now, I'm not saying that that's absolutely what they'll do, but those are the positions they need to fill. And if you look at what's left on the draft board, there should be players at those positions available.
If Jonathan Brooks is on the board when they need to pick a running back, if that opportunity that they do take a running back, is he without question, the one they would take if he's there?
I believe so, but, towards the end of Jerry's, post-draft first-round press conference, when he was, heaping all that praise on Jonathan Brooks, it just really made me think, like, man, this certainly seems like a Jerry Jones smoke screen. Like, let me say all these nice things about him because, everyone's connecting the dots because his knee surgery was done by one of our team doctors, and we need a running back, and he'll likely go in the second round. And we have had a history of taking chances on guys in the second round that have high upside that might be coming off of an injury. So just everything, all the dots are connecting. And it just makes me think that either one, they feel pretty confident he's not going to be there when they pick, or that they're kind of set on, we'll find our running back in the third round. We think that there's a nice clump of guys that we all have pretty similar grades on. We can get one of these in the third round. We're going to address the defense in round 2, but let's make everybody think that, we're really all in on Jonathan Brooks. And I do think they like him, and I do think that they believe he's the best running back in this class. I just don't think that he'll make it to them, and I just think that there's other needs that they might have a little bit higher value on.
Well, John, you and I both know who the best running back in the class is, but we won't get into that. Anyway, because he's healthy.
Let's say his name, Trey Benson.
Florida State. But, John, how do you feel Jerry reacted to the leaves falling? I need other leaves to fall. And then when 2 leaves fell pretty fast, you guys asked him about it, and then he was like, well, I don't know all that talk about leaves.
It makes me almost think that whether you're talking about CeeDee Lamb or Micah Parsons, that you got to start factoring in the possibility of maybe he's looking down the road to, now we'll use multiple franchise tags on one of these guys. Obviously those players won't be thrilled about that, but they do have the ability to do it. It's not to say that that's a cheap way to go about it, but it could be a cheaper way than maybe giving a long-term deal, because it just doesn't make sense to me. CeeDee Lamb is the one contract, Micah still has time. Dak, maybe they want him to play this following season out and see where they are there, which obviously opens the door to them losing him. But CeeDee Lamb is the one that I just don't understand, because of the fact that, it's going to be one of these offers that are going to have to be north of $30 million, and it's looking like it's going to probably have to be closer to $34, $35 million with what Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown just recently got. And so I don't understand why you don't try and get it done now. But, that's the thing, though. We hear from the Cowboys. We're not really hearing from CD's representatives, and they might be wanting to sit there and wait to see what Jamar Chase gets, or to wait to see what Justin Jefferson gets. And that's fine, but it just, that just seems like you're really playing with fire, because it's not like we're going to sit here 3 months from now and go, or 6 months from now, or a year from now and go, oh, you know what? The wide receiver market really dropped off, and now the Cowboys are able to re-sign CD for $25 million. We know that's not going to happen. We know it's going to be north of 30. So I don't know. All I can think of is maybe that they're going to try and let this thing play out and maybe go the franchise tag route. Obviously, like I said, Blair ain't going to be happy about that, but it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because CD has done everything in those 4 years he's been with this team so far to show you that he is a legit number one receiver and one of the top 4 or 5 receivers in this game.
John, I know you've got a lot on your plate the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend, and Guyton being on campus. Of a scale of 1 to 10, where do you have him as who can be not just a starter, but a guy that might be better than a starter in his career?
All right. Well, we'll say 10 is a Zach Martin, no doubt, Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor guy. And then we'll say 1 is just a complete absolute bust. I don't know. I think he could be between that, 6-7 range.
Okay.
I think a lot that will help him is the fact that, I think there'll be some rust, and not just rust, there'll be some growing pains. I mean, he's moving from the right side over to the left side in the NFL. This is a good, an organization that's had good offensive lines, and they're kind of rebuilding it right now. I do think that there's going to be growing pains. I don't think it's going to be just hit the ground running. So, but him playing next to Tyler Smith, I think, is going to be a huge advantage, because I think Tyler Smith's going to be an excellent guard for a long time. And so I think that helps the transition process. And just our small time being around Tyler today, Tyler Guyton, that is, he does seem like he has that right mentality, much like Tyler Smith did when he came in here after he was drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. And so I think that part gives them a lot of success. And then the other thing is, again, like I said earlier, there's plenty that you can criticize the Cowboys on, and I get everybody ripping them right now, deservedly so. I totally understand where that is, but let's also not just throw away logic here. And if anything, this team has shown you that they deserve the benefit of the doubt when they spend a first round pick on an offensive lineman. And so I think that's the other thing that factors in for me. They don't draft. I mean, I'm not saying they have great success with every pick, and they don't have great success with certain positions. Obviously, defensive tackle is one of them, but when it's the Dallas Cowboys taking an offensive lineman in the first round, they got a pretty nice track record right now that player is going to be pretty good. And so because of that, I think they got a good one here, and I think that they'll end up looking back on this and this being a good pick for the Cowboys.
John, good luck covering it all this weekend. John Machota, Athletic.com, and the Cowboys after moving down, picking Guyton from Oklahoma, and now trying to fill the coverage with that extra third-round pick with that pick in the trade-up of Detroit with the Lions. Now, what a crowd last night. My God, they showed up in Detroit and did a great job. All right, when we come back, Joey McGuire, head football coach at Texas Tech. And later on, John Cooper from Our Lad's Guide to kind of review and look ahead to the draft last night, the draft this weekend, including rounds 2 and 3 tonight. And this is 365 Sports. Remember when the live crawfish, the 30-pound sacks became available, bags? It was like $4.99 a pound, and it went down to $4.50. This week, 30-pound bags of live crawfish, $3.50 a pound. If you're having a crawfish boil, it's too late to order for this weekend unless you have to find it somewhere else. But at Waco Custom Marketplace, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish, and they have a bunch of them, are available if you order by 6 o'clock when they close their doors on Wednesdays, and you can start to pick up what you order on Friday afternoon after 4, and also what their doors are open, of course, and the business is open throughout the day on Saturday. Potatoes, corn on the cob, mushrooms, the seasonings if you want it, and the crawfish boil. Not to mention you have crab legs, shrimp, and more. Waco Custom Marketplace also with fresh tuna steaks at $16.99 a pound, 10-pound frozen hamburger patties for $43, and they are already made for you. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire, friend of the show, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig and Paul, I'm David Smoak, and again, we appreciate Joey for joining us on the show. Thank you very much. You made the decision to shut down Baron Morton, and it gave you, your young quarterbacks, even more opportunities. Was that the plan, and is Baron Morton just being almost proactive on him?
Well, first, man, it's great to talk to you guys. You know how much I appreciate y'all and love your show. It was kind of one of the deals. We'd gotten through 6 practices. We had a scrimmage. He looked really good in the scrimmage, and he had some soreness, that kind of lasted a couple of days. And, our doc was like, Coach, you already know who your quarterback is. This is a chance for him to really shut down and rest his shoulder. So that was kind of the decision, because I knew that it would, 1, help Baron, but number 2, we had 3 young quarterbacks that needed a bunch of reps to find out who number 2 was behind Baron. And so it really, that gave us some really good practices with those guys playing with the 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Coach, how do you look at spring football differently? It's changing all over the place. Some people are doing spring games. Some people are not. There's benefits and drawbacks to all of it. How much have you morphed it? I mean, obviously, finding out who your second quarterback was going to be was a higher priority anyway, so it kind of worked out for you. But on down the line, how do you see this morphing and changing?
I don't know if you'll ever see a televised spring game anymore. I guess, maybe if you're on ESPN and you have something, definitely that's going to help you in recruiting. But I'm really the weather kind of took care of our situation, but I don't know if we'll ever talk about another one because you're in a situation where you're just advertising some of your younger players to get picked off your roster in the portal. And so I think you'll see less and less of that. We split our teams. We drafted our teams, totally split the coaching staff, recruiting staff, training staff, strength staff. It was a lot of fun. Our players loved it. The staff loved it. So we'll probably stick with that as long as we have the numbers. But again, I don't know how many, spring games you're going to see televised just because of the way the world is right now, to where guys can transfer anytime they want and as many times as they want. So I don't necessarily know how good that is for us.
Coach, you're a couple years in now. You'd think your bearings about you about this point at this stage. Your team's won 8 games in back-to-back years, won bowl games. What's just sort of the focus now for the program entering year 3? Where does your mind immediately go on the further building blocks and building out and what you want to do to continue to evolve the program?
Well, I hope to God that I don't play 3 quarterbacks this year. I always tell everybody I would have bet my house that I wouldn't have played 3 quarterbacks in year 1 and played 3 quarterbacks in year 2. It's really important for us to keep our quarterback healthy because I think that's one thing that can help us take the next step. We feel good about our team. We're not really looking. It might be a walk-on that is somewhere in the portal or something like that, but we're not looking for any scholarship players in the portal. We feel really good about where we're at. I'm kind of just holding my breath until the portal closes to make sure I don't lose anybody. And so I think the big thing is really being more consistent on defense and then keeping that QB healthy. If we can keep him healthy, then we feel really good about our football team.
How much of an impact, or is it still too early to tell what Clay McGuire's had on your offensive line?
No, he's had a huge impact. The one thing, we interviewed some great O-line coaches, and the one thing that really stood out was just him as a teacher, him going through and how from day one until all the way through the summer, he already had a calendar mapped out of what these guys are going to do and what he's working towards. And you can see a big difference. Not just, we're getting better, but you could see a big difference in their attitude of how they felt, how they were learning. And I thought that was a real positive for our team. But I'm excited. I've known Clay for a long time. His older brother actually coached for me in 2003 at Cedar Hill, Cody McGuire. And so it was a big get to get him back to Texas Tech. And then he's such a great teacher.
Joey McGuire, Texas Tech football coach, with us on 365 Sports.
Coach, when did you have an idea that Taj Brooks was going to be coming back?
Well, luckily that was kind of early. I say kind of early. It was before the bowl game. When we were going through where we thought he could be drafted, him coming back and having another year of production to where that could help him move up in the draft. And then he's really chasing Hanspard. Hanspard's the all-time leading rusher at Texas Tech, and that was important to him too. Taj is a very proud Red Raider, and that was something that he's like, Coach, I think I have it's 1,167 yards that we're chasing. And the first time I said that to him, he started laughing at me. He goes, Coach, how do you know that? I said, trust me, it's just important to me for you to be the all-time leading rushers. It is for you, because you're one of my guys, and I want to put you in the record books. And so it was huge to get him back because he's such a strong leader. And he didn't get a lot of live work. He probably got like 3 reps of live work during the spring. I mean, he did a lot of spring. I mean, did practice every day and everything. But anytime we tackled, he had 2 carries, 1 for 6 and 1 for 27. And I was like, all right, what are we doing? Like, I know what Taj Brooks can do. So y'all just get him out of there because we need some of these young backs to get some reps. And so he and Barron were actually the owners / GMs of the 2 teams in the spring game.
How would you describe trying to tackle him, or how would you describe his running style?
You know, he's 230 plus pounds, you know, and huge thighs. He, you know, for me and you, I can easily say this. I don't know if he necessarily lowers his shoulder as much as Earl Campbell does with that violence, you know, where he would explode through you. But one thing that made Earl so tough to tackle was you're tackling tree trunks, you know. I mean, Taj's lower body is so big. He's so strong. I mean, I don't know what he squats because we stopped him at 600 pounds and it looked like it was a warm-up, you know. And so I think that's what's so tough. And then he has phenomenal vision. I mean, you know, it's almost like he's making one guy miss, but he's really setting up the next guy. You know, he made some really good runs and some really bad blocking last year. And so we're hoping we're better. And so some of those runs become easier than what he had to do last year.
I love that you have to stop him at 600 pounds and say, like, hey, look, 600 pounds, that's 2 of your offensive linemen, essentially. There's nothing more to prove. And you're, like, in this realm. Like, you're fine. If it's 700, fine. It's probably that. Like, don't worry about it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Coach, I saw you posting some pictures, and you've updated the progress on the new Womble Football Center, all the construction that's going on over campus. It looks like an absolute behemoth, but will be an incredible thing when it's all finished up. I've seen the mocks. Just how excited are you? I mean, it's clear through your Twitter account, but for anybody listening who doesn't follow along, I mean, this is obviously what you guys feel like is a big game changer for the program.
Yeah, you said it perfect. It is a game changer. The south end zone is absolutely beautiful. Redoing the whole sound system, closing that end in, coming out through the crowd like the Cowboys, you know, that will come out through our club seating crowd. And so the game day environment is going to be unreal. And then you have a sky bridge going over to the Womble Football Center. And so it will be the largest continuous football complex in the country whenever you're talking about our indoor, our Womble football facility, the south end zone, practice fields, everything like that. And it really is. It's a game changer. It's going to be as nice as, you know, we feel like anywhere in the country. You're going to have all the bells and whistles. But for me on Saturdays, I cannot wait for that south end zone to be finished. We're supposed to be able to move in July 12th because our offices are on the second floor, facing the stadium and facing the field. And so, you know, we're really excited about that. And I think it's going to make a big difference. It's already tough to play here in Jones AT&T, but I think it's going to make it that much tougher.
You know, you guys, I believe, are one of those that experimented with the headsets or the devices during a bowl game. How much is that an advantage for you entering this season? And how much of a difference, besides what would appear to be obvious, does it make?
Man, you're just trying to get me stirred up, aren't you? I don't know if you. I have a very hot sports opinion on this. I think it was they dropped the ball so bad on this. It was such a layup on doing it right, and they just took the easy way out. So I'll give it you real quick. What we did in the bowl game was absolutely phenomenal. It was a game changer. We had 3 guys on defense with the headsets. We did not have to signal one time on defense. On offense, we chose our quarterback. If they would have kept the 3, we were going to do our quarterback or center and one of the receivers. You know, just because you're no huddle, there was still a little bit of signaling by the quarterback, but we didn't have to signal as a coaching staff. So that's what all the bowls did. That's what we all thought they were going with. And you had all the momentum coming out of the Michigan situation that it should have passed very easily. Instead, you had a group that decided, hey, let's just get it passed, and which it was going to pass, but let's just get it passed and use the NFL model. It does nothing to change the college game. You're literally doing nothing to change it because you're still going to have to signal. We don't play, there are very few teams in college football that huddle. As a defense, I wouldn't huddle anyway, but there's very few teams that huddle. And then whenever you look at the NFL, anytime they go no huddle or they go to a 2-minute, they're signaling anyway. So everybody talking about the headset and how it's going to change where people aren't stealing signals and all that, you literally had a chance for a layup to make it to where you wouldn't have that, and you chose the easy way out. And I tried to talk to every committee member on the 2 or 3 committees that were a part of this. We were a part of what they did in the bowl game, and I guess they thought this was the easy way to do it. It's frustrating to me. I've voiced my frustration because, again, whenever you have that much momentum of the stuff that happened in Michigan, it's a layup. Let's just do it right. Here's the other thing that nobody's talking about. You just put more stuff on the officials that already have their hands full, but now it's a penalty if you have more than one green dot on the field. So a guy that has a green dot on the helmet. So now you're going to have guys that have multiple helmets during the game because, again, you play more guys in college football. And so if your 2 linebackers, the guys that have the green dots, and you want to change them out or you want to put them both in the game, somebody's going to have to wear a different helmet. So now you got dudes sitting on the sideline, or it's a penalty.
So there's only one on each side. You have one on offense, one on defense, is what you're saying, instead of what you had in the ball game, which was 3 on each side of the ball.
Yes. Yeah.
I did not know you used 3 on each side of the ball. Okay,
awesome.
that's awesome.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm telling you.
So why would
we
would people not want the 3?
Because again, they thought that it wouldn't get passed, and they said, "Let's just get it passed." And that's the problem that we're in right now. I mean, it's just the typical thing that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Instead of it getting passed right, you just pass it. So then you don't see the ramifications of what you just did, and you did nothing. You didn't do anything to help not signaling, and that's kind of like the world we've lived in college football. That's why we're dealing with so many things we're dealing with right now between the transfer portal and NIL, and because nobody had you do one rule thinking that you've solved something. It's not thought out well enough to where you get it right instead of they just wanted to get it passed. And that was told to me multiple times by everybody. Hey, we just want to get it passed, and then we can go back and look to make it better. And I'm like, well, why don't just do it the right way the first time, and then we're not having to worry about having to get it fixed a year from now or 2 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds so frustrating. And thank you for explaining all that, because I don't think we realized how much of an issue that is with the headsets. I just figured it was like, hey, I was in the bowls and it's going to be that way. And so, no, that's obviously very enlightening there. And you brought up that that's just the tip of the iceberg with kind of every matter now in college football. I mean, everybody's exhausted. Everybody's frustrated to some extent. Coach, what do you suggest? I mean, do you have an idea? Have you given a thought of how this could turn the corner and get to where there's not issues like this? I mean, is it a commissioner type figure? Just as somebody deeply invested, where are you looking for answers, or where do you think answers could come from so this is not such a messy situation, everything that comes up from time to time?
Yeah, and I've asked whenever Todd Berry was over the AFCA and now with Craig Bowles, I told him, I said, I'm not one of these guys that gripes and just gripes. Like, you put me on any committee, put me anywhere you want to put me, because I want to help try to solve the issues. So I'm not just I'm telling you guys, I called any committee member that I could find a phone number to about these headsets, I called to express what I thought we should do. But I really agree with Chip Kelly whenever he went and said that there needs to be a commissioner, just because of the way we're going, and then there needs to be a separation. I think it's crazy that you're fixed to have Stanford and Cal play in the ACC. That makes no sense to me. And then think about that you're having their softball team travel like that and their baseball team travel like that. And you can do the same thing in other conferences. So I think there's got to be some separation to where there is a commissioner and there's a separation in football. And this is really what you're looking at as the power conferences, or, what he said was a top 64 or 80 ever how many teams. I don't know what that number is, but if you're going to go the direction we're going, you've got to have a governing body that truly governs the sport that we're playing. And, we don't have that right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of politics and a lot of meetings with nothing coming out of it. Let me ask you this. Speaking of that, you brought that up. There are 16 teams in the new Big 12 with Utah, Arizona, ASU, and Colorado joining. Of those 16 teams, if they end up shrinking the pie, how do you feel like everybody in the Big 12, you're a bigger school, you've been at the private school at Baylor that's got a great commitment in athletics too. Do you feel like everybody remains in that higher level echelon to play for a championship?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, because, and I don't know enough about this part, but I do think that the conference realignment's not over. Now, it could be 2 years or 3 years or, maybe even next year. But I don't think that you're through seeing what the Big 12 looks like and the Big 10 and the SEC. I think, those three conferences are going to look different. I think that they're definitely then the next year could look different. So that's what's going to be interesting is, who does what and how they split everything up. I'm excited. I'll tell you, I'm really excited about the conference. I think there's going to be some great football being played and some great basketball being played. So it's going to be a lot of fun. This is a really fun conference to be a part of because you have some really good football teams and you're going to see really good games week in and week out.
All right, outside of football for a second, you're going to be on stage with Kane Brown tonight. Is that right?
Yeah, I got a call and they were saying, hey, whenever he comes out and sings Famous Friends, he and Chris Young did that song together, and he's going to sing it tonight. Do you want to come out? I went. My Debbie and my sister, niece, and Reagan, my daughter, were going to the concert. I wasn't planning. I love Kane Brown, but I was going to hang out and watch the draft. And when they said that, I was like, heck yeah, I want to be on stage with Kane Brown. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I made sure I geared him up with a bunch of tech gear, and we'll have a good time tonight.
Is he gonna put you on the mic and let you sing a couple bars, Coach?
Well, I don't know if he'll let me sing, but if he puts me on the mic, we're going to do a Raider Power for sure.
There we go. So April Fools. Debbie is pretty good about.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So what was the latest one where she and I've been told by the Vegas odds makers that you are always every year, no matter what, April 1 is the same day every year, and every year you get nuked.
She gets me every year. My assistant Alicia, she's a rock star. She actually sent me a text saying, "Hey, realize tomorrow is April Fool's," and so the first one, it's going to get everybody. So she took Saran wrap, and when I opened the bedroom door to leave the next day, it was totally sealed with Saran wrap. Well, I'm going to, of course, walk out when it's dark, and I'm not going to turn on the light. So I walk right into the Saran wrap. Oh. And then she has a skeleton hanging on the door leading out to the garage. So I walked out into a skeleton. So she got me twice. She always has something.
Better than a spider web. Better than a real spider web, right?
No doubt. if she could do that, she would, and find a way to do that, she definitely would do that to me.
All right, Paul doesn't. You still have a couple more. I know you have other interviews. Do you have a couple more minutes to go with us?
No, I do.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So Paul doesn't know about this one, but he's going to jump into it. I know him. What is it about your infatuation and obsession with chickens?
With chickens?
At Hawaii.
Oh, my gosh. You talked to some good people. Well, I was amazed that there were so many chickens. We went to Maui for our anniversary, and so I kept asking the people around, I was like, why do you have all these chickens over here? Well, there's no natural predators, and so nothing's going to kill these chickens, so they're just kind of hanging out. And, we went to Maui. We went to a couple of different islands. We went and saw Pearl Harbor, which is amazing. But everywhere I went, I saw chickens. I did. I asked our guide. I was like, dude, I don't get it. So I was blown away that there was no natural predators. And then they told me there's no snakes. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me.
That's a great thing. I love Hawaii for just the fact there are no snakes. Paul texted me. Did you not one time you and Amanda were waiting for something? And
I was – Coach, I was in Hawaii. I got engaged there 2 years ago, and I got married there last year on Kauai, Oahu, and Maui. And Kauai is worse than all three of them. There are chickens everywhere. But waiting at the hotel, I was waiting to get the bags out when we first got there, and there were like 11 of them just like around.
Hanging around.
And then because of it was the year after like they had kind of reopened from COVID, we were at the cafe, and they had little squirt bottles to scare them off because there had been chickens that were born kind of in the cafe and no one was there, and we were eating in their territory. So the waiters would just come out and squirt the chickens, like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I heard that there was different islands. There were even more, but I saw plenty for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. You guys were ahead of the curve when it comes to NIL, and a lot of people had to play catch up, and some are still probably doing that or paying for it because they weren't ahead of the curve. How much did that help kickstart Joey McGuire in Texas Tech?
I mean, whenever I got here, even in the interview, they were already talking about, hey, we're going to be proactive. This is where this is going. And so it really helped a lot. I think I always tell everybody whenever you're talking about high school recruiting, that is still the more traditional recruiting that we all think and know. I had not had very few high school athletes talk about money or anything like that. It really is still the traditional recruiting, where it is the difference now. And I think where we were able to get a leg up and fall behind and not fall behind, and people did, was in the transfer portal. Because when you're talking about guys that have 1 year left, they're wanting to move up, probably to a level of they're a G5 to move to the Power 4 level now. And then they're also looking at a point to where, how can I capitalize on this? And so that was the one thing with our sole collective is the Matador Club. And, those guys, the board and the university and all the alumni really got started to where we were able to compete at a really good level whenever it came to that. I think a lot of people would just assume whenever you're talking about just recruiting in general, that it's a big deal whenever you're talking about high school recruiting. That we've found that it's not, that's not the sole reason, because you're still talking about young guys and you're talking about parents that are really focused on getting an education and everything. It's really the older guys that are at the end of their career in college of trying to move up and then have a chance to play in the NFL. So I think it was big for us. I mean, it'd be crazy not to say it wasn't, that they were ahead of the curve. And I think I feel like we're doing it the right way.
How is Micah Hudson's rehab going?
Going great, man. He's ready to roll. He'll be fully released in July, but he's had a great April, the end of April. He was at 90%. We're slow. We got 3 guys that we're really being slow with, and they're great. They've done a great job with it. It's going great. It's one of those deals that he came in and he was like, man, I'm having some issues. I think it either was the last playoff game or it happened during the Under Armour game. But I'm glad he came in mid-year because he'll be ready to go, as soon as we feel like he'll be fully released the 1st of July. And, man, we plan on him doing a lot of good things for us this fall.
All right, last thing. This is year 3 for you. You were there for a little bit before that. And Texas Tech, you finished strong. You've got the bowl wins, and there's the momentum. But what and how important is it that Texas Tech, when it gets to mid to late November, is playing in a game that could put you or lock you into a Big 12 championship game and not fall short?
Yeah, it's huge. When you look at this year, there's some really good things scheduling-wise. If you look at the first 2 years, we were 3-3 through 6 games. This year, 5 of our first 7 games are at home. We played really well at home. And then we're hoping like crazy we finish like we finished the last 2 years in November. I think we've lost 1 game in the last 2 years in the month of November. And so there's some huge games, and they're on the road in November. And so we feel like hopefully we can get started in a really fast note playing at home. And then we need to. Year 3, if you think about it, that's where coming from Matt Rule, he would always talk about year 3. This is year 3 for us. And so we need to be playing in a game like that. It's a meaningful game, late October and November, giving us an opportunity to play in that game.
Thank you. Have fun tonight with the concert. Joey, appreciate your time. I know we kept you for a long, long time, but I'm glad we did. We have some Tech, Katie Rader and Kim Coulter, who's a huge booster as well. Both of them listening. They're both excited, and thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
You bet. Anytime, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Joey McGuire, head football coach at Texas Tech, with us on 365 Sports. Eric, by the way, in the chat, the chickens were kept for chicken fighting. When Hurricane Aniki came through, it let the chickens loose.
That is a myth.
Is it?
Yes. It didn't help the situation any. They were already there, but like Joey said, there's no natural predators there. So there were chickens in Hawaii before and after, and that's just how it's going to be. Somebody on a tour, when I was on Kauai, said that same thing, and the guy's like, "Nah, bro, that's not how it happened." So yeah, that's kind of a myth, but yeah.
Okay, all right, there we go.
Yeah, I gave them an extra win. I said 8 wins back-to-back years, and I said it, and I was like, wait a second. And they were 7-6 last year, but I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, there was a time when they were on the edge, weren't they? Yeah.
I don't like getting things wrong, and even if I'm doing exactly what you're taught not to do, but I wanted to clear that up because they were 7-6 last year. But, yeah, it was great to hear from Coach McGuire and hear him excited about some things and obviously, worked up or, concerned about other areas when it comes to college football, like a lot of other coaches are right now. It's good to hear his thoughts on a wide variety of topics.
So they passed the device rule, and yet, like he said, and it makes sense, they get something passed, but they don't have parameters set. And then they go back and try to do it, and on the devices, I didn't realize they had 3 helmets on each side of the ball for those bowl games, which is great. And now there's just the one, and now you have to have helmet, etc. And I'm glad he cleared that up for us and gave us a lot of more, I guess you could say, insight on that rule.
Yeah, well, the fact that they made that rule and everybody was excited about the obviousness of passing that rule, and now they've already screwed that up is just really
so college football
on the nose.
On the nose college football leadership. What a crock. Do something right. And like he said, here's the thing: he's like, just do it right. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
No,
you now have like another year where you're gonna have to politic and jostle, and now you got to do this all over again. You got to get it correct. It's like you don't have to do any of that. Just do it right the first time, and it's done. And you don't have to revisit this. Like, what the hell are you doing, and what do you get paid for? Like,
to meet.
Yeah, they definitely get paid to meet. Like a lot of other bosses and owners and things like that. But I mean, that's just a stunning lack of leadership on display once again. You can't even pass a helmet communication rule right the first time. So they'll have to go to do this again next offseason and then try to get it right that second. But it's just a waste of time. And yeah, that's a lack of leadership. There should be somebody crossing T's and dotting I's and making sure like you do it and you're done with it, and then you move on to the next thing. But instead,
they screwed it up.
We'll hear more about this dumb helmet communication because they rushed through it just to make sure that it passed. It just makes no sense.
But right?
Makes no sense.
And oh, by the way, thanks again, Matt Dowdy, for setting that up for us with Joey McGuire from Texas Tech. When we come back, John Cooper, our last guide to the NFL draft, what he saw last night, what he expects to see tonight. A couple of other notes that kind of caught his attention besides maybe some that we've talked about, and this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, they're wrapping up the month of April. They have over 300 new cars on their lot. Loop 340 and just east of 84 in Waco. Great selection to choose from. Financing deals that will blow your mind from 0% for 72 months in the best-selling Ram truck, 2024 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or get a Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab and save $10,000 off MSRP. Also, the ingenuity and styling come and grow with the great drive of Grand Cherokee 4XE and the Wrangler 4XE on electric or gas. Great lease options that involve $7,500 in tax credit up front. The Grand Cherokee, the most decorated SUV in history. There is so much to see. New cars, and they have a nice chunk of pre-owned. In fact, the one I bought back in 2020 is what I did there. Ted Teague, the general manager, a great staff that will help you when you're there, from the time you want to look or test drive to the time you buy, and a service department that is upper echelon. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Alan Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
By the way, I got some great news from one of our great sponsors, Texas Beef House, from their auction last night. We'll have that for you. But right now, we've got, he knows what he's doing. John Cooper, our lad's guide to the NFL draft. We've heard about all the insight. He's been a part of it, the picks, the moment, etc. And John joins us on 365 Sports Round 2 and 3 coming up in a moment. John, the quarterback story obviously was massive. 6, including Bo Nix going early. Was when you heard Michael Penix at 8 in Atlanta, considering what they did with Kirk Cousins, what was your reaction?
My blood pressure went up a little bit. It was a shock. I mean, it really was. I mean, when the shock wore off, you can understand the rationale. I don't know that I would have done that, but the rationale is there. I mean, Cousins is coming off a surgery. He's Achilles. He's 36 years old.
do you want to get yourself into an Aaron Rodgers situation like last year with the Jets where, he went down and all of a sudden there you are. You don't have a quarterback and you got a solid football team. So I think that was their figuring, having two good quarterbacks or having a rookie to develop, I think is what they wanted to do. I would have thought maybe McCarthy would have been a better pick, but Penix is a player and he's got some injury issues too. So, as shocking as it was, there is a rationale for it.
Dave, John, who was your favorite one? Your favorite
quarterbacks?
Yeah, your favorite pick overall.
Well, Washington taking Jaden Daniels, I think that was a great pick for them. I think he's been our top quarterback, our top player in our draft ever since August. So we're glad to see that that happened. We think he's a solid, really good quarterback, and again, you never know for sure until you get him in the building. But we think that's a great pick. Joe Alt is a great offensive tackle. We had him rated very highly, and we think the Chargers got a real good player there. And Rome Odunze going to the Bears. That's a great pick. It's going to really help the Bears, develop their offense, and they're going to be something to contend with.
From a pure PR and marketing standpoint, hard to imagine Chicago doing any better than they did on night one with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze.
Oh, no, you can't beat that. I was knowing a lot of Bear fans and people, I was nervous that Odunze was not going to be there, but I think when Atlanta took that quarterback, that kind of cinched it.
When it comes to Jaden Daniels, I know the big concern with him is just kind of reckless when he's running, can take the big hits. How much can you realistically expect once he now gets into Washington and gets settled in? Weight gain, things like that. How do the Commanders approach that with him, and what does that all look like, you think, in this offseason?
Well, they're going to want him to be able to create off platform, but he's also a very good pocket passer. And they're going to develop him in a pro-style offense at the same token. You've got an air raid guy, Cliff Kingsbury, that's running, that's calling the plays. So there's going to be a fit there in terms of what Daniels can do. But Daniels can do more than that. He finds alternate receivers, and he can take off and run when it needs be. And he can run. They want to put a little read option in there in the RPO game, which I think they will. He can do that, and he's going to be effective. And yeah, you worry about him taking a hit with that slender frame. But, I think as he grows, he matures physically. He's probably got some good growth years in terms of bulk that, he's going to be okay. Lamar Jackson, they said the same thing about him. And Lamar has been injured, but it hasn't been because of taking off and running. So I think he'll be okay.
So what did you think of Kansas City sliding up from Buffalo, one of their teams that's been right there in the way, and then Kansas City's always had the best of them for the most part, getting Xavier Worthy for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid?
The rich just keep getting richer, don't they? That was a good move. We kind of thought Worthy might be there when Kansas City picked, but obviously that wasn't the case. They didn't think so they moved up and made that selection. And, Buffalo is still in need of a receiver, too. Buffalo needs picks, too, because, they lost some players with cap casualty and whatnot. So, they're going to have to take somebody, early in this second round, in the receiver, from that receiver core. And there's still some good ones left.
To me, A.D. Mitchell would be a great fit for anybody, but would that be a great fit for someone like Allen who throws the ball so hard and high and he's got that size?
Yeah, I think that would be a good pick. There's I'm just offhand. There's a couple of other guys that could go there. Keon Coleman, that might be a little high for him, but a guy I really like is Ladd McConkey. He is a really good receiver. He's underrated in my opinion. He's not real big, but he can run. He can do things after the catch. So I could see McConkey being a guy that would fit with Allen as well.
John, who do you think tonight? I mean, with the Eagles having 2 picks in the second round, the Cowboys have 2 picks in the third and 3 picks overall. Who do you think can make the most waves on night 2?
Well, that's hard to say. I think anytime you have picks, the more picks you have, the more opportunities you have to make waves. And the Eagles have multiple picks. The Cowboys, they're going to need to make a couple of moves. They've got a couple of needs that they're going to have to address. I think they need a corner. You need a running back. And and Green Bay has 2 picks in both the second and third round. So those are some teams that can do some things.
What did you think of the Cowboys getting Tyler Guyton?
Well, he was the last of the tackles, so the really good tackles available. So that was a good move, a really good move. I was surprised in some ways that Green Bay passed him up because, Guyton's got some versatility. I think Baltimore would have looked at him, although Baltimore, when they saw those corners dropping, I could see they had their pick of the litter with the corners that were left. So, that was a good move by Dallas taking Guyton. Solid player. He can plug and play, in my opinion.
John, so let me ask you this. If you're all these other teams, 7 teams have drafted. Here comes Atlanta at number 8. What do you think the other, what would be 31 teams, even those who have already drafted, or teams right behind the 8th pick with Atlanta, when they heard Michael Penix's name, what could you kind of even try to describe some of the reactions in the war rooms?
There was a lot of joy. Because it just meant one more player was going to be available. The fact that 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12 picks, all those teams down below are thinking, especially the guys that had defensive needs, knowing that it's not a great defensive draft, and some of the best defensive players in this draft are going to be sitting there in the bottom, half of the draft. It was terrific. I think the line on the NFL Network, he says, Ballard from Indianapolis, he says, if 6 quarterbacks go in the first round, I'll come on your show anytime. So that was a surprise. That was a surprise, and all of the war rooms were very happy because it just added to their mix.
John, thank you. Great stuff. I know it's a busy time for you. Congratulations on getting through round 1. I know this is kind of like a little bit of Christmas for you. Good luck having fun watching it, unfold tonight. We will, too. Yeah,
hey, John, I wonder, how do you watch the draft? Do you have a specific feed? Because I think a lot of the Belichick and Saban influence last night, a lot of people were commenting on. Just curious from your perspective, being so deep into it.
Oh, I watch the NFL Network.
Okay.
And I've got certain people that I talk to, I text with. There's a couple of coaches, NFL coaches I text with, and I'm close with. There's one agent that I text with. There's another scout from another service that we text back and forth with some of the things he's hearing and whatnot. And it's it's a lot of fun. And I've done that for years. With the coaches in particular, there's a lot of dead time for those guys. And so they're looking for things to do. I can tell you one team years and years ago used to do a mock draft contest within their coaching staff. Because, the waiting between picks was so long. So I get in on that a little bit, but for the most part, I'm like everybody else and I watch.
Thank you, John. You do a great job with it. Thank you, John Cooper, our lad's guide to the NFL draft with us on 365 Sports. Coming up around the corner, Kevin Flaherty. Remember, he was working for 247, and then all of a sudden they had some changes. He's now with Kansas City Sports Network. Didn't take long for him to get hooked up with that. You're going to be doing a podcast and a recruiting show on KU, who had a hell of a day today. And then Garrett, do you have the graphic? Jeff Borzello from ESPN.com on the way too early top 10 preseason men's basketball poll. It's still other players to be added. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8, all a part of the Big 12, with Arizona at 8, Cincinnati at 22, and then, of course, the 3 with a bunch back and adding more, Houston, KU, Iowa State, Baylor at 1, 2, 3, and 5.
And, of course, if Brett Yormark gets his way, future
Gonzaga,
Big 12 winner Gonzaga.
At number 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe you got it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we kind of just glossed over, but Joey just said that he expects more. And I think that's, he also didn't mention the ACC when he was listing out the conferences. I don't know if y'all picked up on that, but I very much did. I was waiting for him to say ACC, and he just said SEC, Big 12, and Big 10. And so I think we kind of all know what the situation is there. Something's bound to happen one way or the other out east, and when it does, Brett Yormark everybody else will be ready to pivot however they need to. But, yeah, Big 12 looks so good in this poll that it even triggered folks that couldn't stand to see something positive being put out there. The John Rothstein tweet about this had some funny reaction to it because the people don't apparently know he's a basketball reporter. This wasn't a football tweet, but the Big 12 lives rent-free in some heads still. So, yeah, that's a nasty-looking lineup. I will say those are cute preseason rankings, but what matters is what happens in the end.
Yeah,
the SEC is not the SEC in football because they had a bunch of number ones or 5 out of the top 10 in preseason rankings. They won national titles. And right now, the Big 12's in a spot where they've had Baylor and Kansas here recently. UConn's won the other 2. But you gotta have somebody else jump up next year and go win that bad boy. Or you can't win like 2 in 7 years and claim to be superior to everybody else. You got to stack them up. So they're still in a little window where 2 out of the last 4 is pretty nice. But they definitely, I still feel like have room to live up to this label of being the best. I think night in and night out it is. I think I think it's the toughest league, top to bottom, in the country. But I think this crowning it as just without a doubt the best, I think that got taken back a bit in this past tournament.
I think you got to do it consistently. And, if you have an off postseason, you got to talk about it. You're right. By the way, Paxton lives out in the Panhandle, and a few of you do, and had those tornadoes last year, even had a warning, I think, last night. And we've seen parts of Texas hit. Earlier today here in the Waco area, there was a tornado just north of Waco. There was also one a little bit west of Waco.
Yeah, China Spring got it bad too.
China Spring, Crawford, that area. And then Omaha, Nebraska, they have what they called one of the strongest tornadoes in U.S. history based on the radar that was just shown. Need mass casualty resources in Omaha from the chief of, again, those who help save lives when there is disaster.
Well, that's terrible. I don't know exactly what that means other than they obviously need some help. But
30 or 40 houses are just gone.
Okay, well, we're in tornado season. I mean, that comes with the territory, and it's a scary thing, no doubt. People who don't live in a tornado area don't quite – it's not like a hurricane. You just prepare for it, and you go get your groceries and everything. It's like it could happen just 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden you're hearing sirens. So, it's a scary time of year for people in certain parts of the country for sure.
Yeah, those tornado sirens are different than when
you hear those, it's serious.
And we heard
it's no playing around.
We heard them today, and I know some of you had, and you heard yours too. When we come back, we're going to hear from Kevin Flaherty on college basketball. Also, Tim Maloney, former Baylor assistant, on all the coaches under Scott Drew, how they've been distributed around the country as head coaches, and then with what Alvin Brooks is going to do at Kentucky. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. They're the people that I've counted on to get some body work done. I know plenty of people have counted on them for oil changes, body work themselves, or just going and getting themselves a new or pre-owned vehicle. And all those options are available to you now and always over at Richard Carr, and have been available for the past 20-plus years. They are celebrating right now 20-plus years here in the Central Texas area. If you remember last month, it was revolving around the madness of March. This month, the eclipse, just a week or two ago. They're celebrating that with rarely seen savings all month during the eclipse sales event, which means that if you need space for your entire crew, especially with summer coming up, family travel, all that good stuff, if you need space, well, look no further than a Buick Enclave. The Buick Enclave offers a quiet drive loaded with space-age technology, and it also delivers uncommon luxury at a common price. So come on over to the dealership today and experience the luxury of a Buick Enclave, and check out the luxury and the great experience of driving that vehicle today over at Richard Carr. You also save thousands on the new Envisions. You can save $6,000 on the Enclave, and military and first responders can also save an additional $500 on those vehicles as well. You can check out more of the details when you go on over and visit, or give them a phone call. But if you're not looking to buy new, they've got pre-owned cars and trucks all over the lot as well. 90 highly inspected used cars and trucks, and 100% credit approval is always the goal. They say yes when others say no. So check out Richard Carr Motors. In business the last 25 years in Central Texas, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. And only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations in Waco. And the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network. It's great to be able to say that where he is now. Joins us on 365 Sports. And thanks for your time, Kevin. We just put up that ESPN way too early top 25 with all the teams inside the Big 12 inside the top 10, plus Cincinnati at 22. And what a day for Bill Self. Rylan Griffin commits to KU from Alabama, and then Bill Self and Hunter Dickinson have a little fun on Twitter about whether he's coming back, and he is. How much of an offseason has he had after such an incredibly disappointing season last year?
Yeah, he's had a terrific offseason, and they aren't done yet. You know, I think there are a couple other transfers that Kansas is certainly in play for right now, and even beyond that, you know, Johnny Furphy kept his college eligibility alive, you know, while he tests the NBA draft process, and I'm told that that's not a done deal in terms of him, you know, definitely going to the NBA. And so with all of those things, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about it this way. Bill Self has never not won the Big 12 2 years in a row. Every year that he hasn't won the Big 12, he's bounced back and won it the next year. It's going to be awfully tough to win the Big 12 this upcoming season with how loaded everybody is. And yet at the same time, you know, you get the feeling that Self has Kansas pretty loaded to bear to certainly be in that discussion.
Do you feel like Riley Kugel is going to make it in?
I think that's a major question mark at this point. And I think when you look at that transfer class, you know, the fact that Kansas continues to pursue other wings, I think is pretty indicative. And so I think, Kugel seemed like a really good get at the time. I do think that there were some things that he brought that Kansas didn't have at that time. In particular, everybody talked about the lack of shooting on this year's team. I thought one of the bigger problems, or potentially just as big, was they didn't have anybody to go get their own shot, once Kevin McCullough went down in particular. And so when you looked at Kugel, that was kind of his value. He's a tough shot taker and a tough shot maker, but Kansas has continued to kind of recruit like he's not going to make it in, and they've gotten other guys that kind of have those same abilities. And when you look at how many transfers they have at sort of those 2-3 spots where he would fill in, there's also now a question of, where's the playing time? Because people aren't talking about the two returning freshmen either, in terms of Elmarco Jackson kind of playing that off-ball spot. He may play a little bit of point guard as well. And then Jamari McDowell being a 3 too. So you have a lot of guys at those positions, and it's fair to ask that even if Kugel does manage to make it in, how many minutes a game are there really for him to slide into?
How much was the acquisition, and that's what it is, with Jeremy Roach, Duke, headed to Scott Drew and Baylor? I know Scott's lost assistant with Alvin Brooks, of course, is gone. John Jacobs, that's a tough loss to Florida Atlantic. But they're not done. There's the thought about the big kid from Tennessee, among others. How big was that one there, though, with Jeremy Roach?
Well, it's huge, and I'm glad you brought up the coaching, because I think that one of the big things that Roach brings is he's another coach on the court. And he's somebody that has won a lot of games and not just been a part of a winning team, because I think those are different things. You can be a part of a winning team, but not necessarily play the biggest role in them getting there. But I know you remember when Duke made that Final Four run in Coach K's final year. I don't know that they get there without some really clutch play from Jeremy Roach. He's really good in tight games. I think when you look at this Baylor backcourt and the guys they add in that freshman class, and particularly VJ Edgecombe, who's such an explosive talent, having a guy that's a traffic controller out there on the court that Scott Drew can trust implicitly and say, this guy is going to get us into our best looks. He's going to get the ball where it needs to go, whether that's him doing it himself or getting it to other guys. That's just such a great security blanket. And with Jonas Adu, like you said, visiting Baylor, he's got a visit lined up for Arkansas. It's obviously tough to beat John Calipari in any manner of recruitment, but Adu is a guy that Baylor is very much in on. I guess he could take a visit to Alabama, although last time I checked, it hasn't been set just yet. But Adu was a guy that this year, I'm not sure Tennessee does the best job of feeding their post players. It's not really, kind of what they do, and it really wasn't what they did when they had Dalton Connect going out and getting his own shot. And yet at the same time, there were some games this year where Adu certainly seemed like the best player on the court or sort of right there. And so you think in the right situation, he's somebody that could walk in and be a real star at that center spot.
Kevin, what do you think of, Scott Drew's got to have one of the fastest growing and most impressive coaching trees, I think, going on right now in college basketball. But losing John Jacobs, losing Alvin Brooks now, he's overcome that with Grant McCaslin and others over the years. But what kind of a change do you think that makes, if any, for him and the program moving forward?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I was a big fan of Jerome Tang and still am. And when Tang went to Kansas State, I talked to somebody who was in the coaching industry, and they said, as great as Tang is, they said, watch for Jacobs. Like he's an up and coming star sort of in his own right. And there are some coaches that they can just find those guys, right? Like Nick Saban had a lot of guys kind of come and go, and he always replaced those guys. I'm not saying it's easy. And I think that when you look at, we talked about Kentucky, I think, on one of the recent times that I was on here. I think that was one of the biggest things that killed Calipari was Calipari really struggled to replace the impact that he had from Kenny Payne and from some of his other assistants. He wasn't able to restock that well. The good news is like you said, Scott Drew's been doing this for a while now, and the guys that he's found have really fit in well, and they've continued that trend. I do think there's always a little bit of nervousness. Just, hey, how can the new guy be as good as the guy that just left? But at the same time, I do think that if you were to ask me, hey, who's a coach in college basketball that you would feel pretty good about having to make those hires, it would be Scott Drew. I mean, you even look at another guy that's had a lot of success in Bill Self. He's kind of had the same assistant coaches darn near forever. And so it's something that Drew has maybe dealt with to a greater extent than other people, and he's done it in a successful manner.
Kevin, when you look at the rest of the Big 12, Arizona got the Townsend kid from Oakland. Houston
Love that kid.
Pretty much reloaded. Cincinnati has retained, and who knows where that's going to go. And we haven't even heard about what Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, all might kind of wind up. I know K-State got Doug McDaniel already. Do you think this is going to be a year where it's going to be another kind of ball of butcher knives through it, and they might have a championship team, or will it look like more like this year where they kind of beat each other up all the way down?
Yeah, I thought you brought up the ESPN thing. I know in Gary Parrish's way too early, the Big 12 has the top 3 teams. So it's, they're going to have guys in that national, or schools, I should say, in that national title discussion all year long. And the funny thing about that one was he had Baylor at number 10. And I thought, man, that could wind up being too low for Baylor, even with 3 Big 12 teams as their 1, 2, and 3. But looking at it too, a team that he didn't have ranked that I thought has had a really nice offseason is West Virginia. When you look at that transfer class, and particularly what they've done in the front court, I'm glad you mentioned Cincinnati as a team that's kind of popping up. I think TCU and K-State have both had really nice transfer classes so far, and so it is one of those situations where, you hate to use the whole, any given Saturday or any given weeknight or whatever. But at the same time, I do think the Big 12's depth is going to be at a really high level. I do wonder a little bit, this past year we saw, the teams that were number 13 and 14 were still able to throw a scare into, and in some cases beat the very top teams in the league. I don't know that the league will be quite that deep. There may be a little bit more separation, especially when you look at like a BYU, for instance, and losing Pope and then some of the Pac-12 schools that are coming in. But I do think that, say, 1 through 10 or 1 through 11, it's going to be really, really tough to win on a given night.
Kevin, thank you very much, man, and happy for you. When does your podcast begin, or the recruiting show? Tell everyone a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we've actually already started a Kansas podcast, and we've had a few episodes on the Pay Heat podcast, but then we're also looking into starting sort of a local recruiting podcast. And so I'll give you guys more information when that gets there, but it's something I'm really excited about, because I've always had, as much as I love college sports and college basketball and everything else, it all starts with the guys that we see in high school. And so it'll be great to be able to tap into that a little bit more.
Congratulations. Glad that worked out. Thank you for your time, Kevin Flaherty, with the Kansas City Sports Network on the Big 12, loading up, and not just the ones that are seen inside that, as he said, Borzello or Gary Parrish or whoever's top 10, but others as well. And good to kind of get a deep insight from him, as we still are at the end of April with a lot more still to change. When we come back, Tim Maloney. He's the former coach at Scott Drew at Baylor. He's been around the country, worked for Billy Donovan, Rick Pitino, among others. His thoughts about how Scott Drew reacts to losing so much of the staff that was a part of winning the national title, and how the opportunities are there for him. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One
one-size-fits-all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
365 Sports here on this Friday afternoon. Thanks to Kevin Flaherty on looking at the Big 12 and men's basketball with all the teams, at least right now, stacked inside the top 10 and others. Tim Maloney has always followed what the Big 12 has done. Has coached for a long, long time in his lifetime. Been all overseas, coached with Scott Drew. And Tim, thank you as always. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak. So, and thanks for your time. How does Scott Drew, in your opinion, he's seen this slow trickle that's become a little heavier of his staff getting these opportunities. How do you think he reacts to it?
You have to think to yourself that you're going to go out and basically look for the best again and get people within your team of joy that make you the best that you could possibly be. So that's part of the deal for the person that's the CEO, right? I mean, the people that are in the wings are often not talked about enough, and that's just the nature of the beast. But the wings are where you get the ability to fly. And so he's got to go, and, I'm certain that he has a lot of people that are coming after him to try to be a part of what he's doing. But moreover, I think he probably has in his mind people that he thinks would be the best fit. But whenever this happens, it's just a sign of real success, right? I mean, when people are getting opportunities and going to other, situations that may better their families, et cetera, and the dreams and desires that they have, that's just a sign of prosperity, of a good thing. And but it definitely puts Scott in a double mode, right? You have the recruiting piece that probably this month is supernatural, is crazy. And not that it's not crazy other months, but it's really crazy right now with the portal. And then just fortifying your group with people that not just can do certain things, from recruiting to, basketball, but really be able to fit as a team, to be people that have the attitude you're looking for. Because the first thing that coaches the team is how the staff themselves work with each other.
How good of a coach of coaches is he then?
I mean, I think he's great. I think he's, somebody that a lot of people want to really work with. I don't think it's just because Baylor is successful. I mean, the bottom line is that's going to attract a portion of people that want to be involved with that shine so they can maybe in their minds market themselves better. But that's not really the population of human that you necessarily would be looking for. You're looking for, people that are not about that. They're about a we situation over a me, and that have a faith-based JOY, Jesus, others, yourself. So that cuts it down, because that's not the world we live in terms of, most people in any profession. So I think Scott will take his time. I'm pretty sure that he's got people that are already in his mind, and he's already talking to. But I think he's clearly somebody that's able to allow other people to be themselves, and at the same time get everybody to be one together.
Tim, obviously he would love to have the staff intact, and you were a part of that, and all the others that are spread out throughout the country. But is there anyone happier when John Jacobs, Alvin Brooks, Grant McCaslin, Jerome Tang, Paul Mills, Matt Driscoll, Tim Maloney, or others, when they do scatter about? Is there anyone more positive about it than him?
Just those people's parents. I would say, again, it's something that Billy Donovan said a time ago, and he may have, and Scott, he may have talked about that even, longer than 2 decades ago, that it's really a sign of something special you should desire for those that you work with to get opportunities. And definitely I saw Scott, as that. He was somebody, there was a couple of Division I opportunities that happened that I witnessed Scott, go more than out of his way for people and to advice wise, and even, just within his budget, making sure that he flew people out to talk to different people that were involved. And I was one of them when Florida Gulf Coast opened years ago, and there was an interest early on and then a second time. So he is definitely somebody that wants that. And at the same time, he has to be diligent to what's next, because he's lost 4 people. I mean, and those are 4 significant people, guys that have really been a part of some serious winning and play serious roles. I mean, Alvin Brooks is, like on the Starship Enterprise when it comes to every part of hoops. I mean, I worked with Alvin for a year. I think he's ridiculously intelligent. He's he's a very quiet, perceptive guy. Doesn't try to be the show. Doesn't try to, broadcast his opinion every time. He listens to everybody. He connects people that are like-minded. And when he needs to feel he's, to say something, he does. And from a recruiting standpoint, Coach Mills and Coach McCaslin and certainly Coach Tang are all people that, really just knew Texas inside and out. And think about it. I mean, Alvin was connected to all 3 guys, not just by, working with them, but by a true sense. McCaslin was is a phenomenal coach and a great person. And he won a national championship in junior college. He's won a national championship, the CBI in Division I. And Alvin worked with them. And Coach Tang is, very close with them as well. These are, it's a different deal when you have somebody like Alvin. His dad is a, Division I coach and been so for a long time. He was at Kentucky himself. And they're just stand-up people. I mean, you could do stories within the story of all these people. Coach Tang's journey, Coach Mills' journey, Alvin's journey, Coach Drew's journey. I mean, you could just go on and on, Coach McCaslin. I mean, everybody's got like an incredible story. I mean, it's movie worthy. But in order to keep your story keep going at Baylor, the school needs to really fortify as more so each year with the standards and the things that are going on now that weren't going on when I was certainly coaching. You have to fortify your coaches with the resources to be able to get the best coaches and to attract the best coaches. But in terms of the attractiveness of the job, Scott Drew turned down the University of Kentucky to stay in Waco. Now, nothing from nothing. I'd like to know who in their right mind would have thought 25 years ago that would be the case. So for anybody to turn down Kentucky. But college basketball, the landscape's different. You have to really give a major amount of recognition to all of Baylor Nation, all the people that get behind it, some people that you never see. It's incredible how many people just are kind, and they, even now they hit you on social media. They're really Bear fans. They really get behind the school. And those are people that are boosters, even if they're not contributing wealth of money. They're just, they're part of building something. And so, Baylor is, to me, top of the food chain. And that's why Scott stayed. I don't think it's just because it's family. It's a great situation. He loves it. I'm certain that his family, didn't want to probably go anywhere. But professionally, you guys all know that if certain opportunities you're kind of looking around, you're trying to make sure, and you're checking all of the, the I's, the T's, things dotted and things crossed, and you have to make decisions. But Scott coming back is not just is a full blown decision of what he believes in Baylor. And as I said, there needs to be even more now than ever before people getting behind everything that's needed to keep the success moving forward.
What do you think about Billy Donovan possibly getting back in the college game? And there was rumors that Kentucky was interested in him, but you know him. You coached with him at Florida. You've known him before you coached with him at Florida. All of that. That was kind of an interesting thing to hear pop up. I know the Bulls aren't, ripping it up, necessarily, but they're building team and they seem to like what he's doing. But was Kentucky, is that just maybe a little too confident of Kentucky? Do you think they could pull a guy away from the Chicago Bulls?
Well, I think the Kentucky AD is a heck of an AD. That's my opinion. I think he's a faith-based guy. I've heard a lot of things about him from Travis Ford, and I coached at Eastern Kentucky, so we played Kentucky in 2005 in the first game of the NCAA tournament for EKU. It was like a storybook season, and for Kentucky itself. So I know that particular area, and obviously my relationship with Billy goes way back, but you'd be ridiculous not to try to get Billy Donovan if you were them, because Billy coached there before. He's a successful coach at two different programs in the NBA. The NBA, I think, is the loudest players league that you could ever imagine. To be a coach in that league, you really need to know how to coach. Meaning, it's not just the teaching of the game, a system, and making decisions game wise, et cetera. It's a bit of a circus. I mean, if they're paying players the money that they continue to play them. It's not because they're the ones that are really making the money. The people that are making the money are the owners, and it's big business. So there's a level of circus to it. But Billy, to me, it's just when I watch him, I mean, his teams compete at every place he's been every year. Even his last year at OKC, where gradually all of the best players were leaving, and that's not up to Billy Donovan. That's a organizational thing. But the truth be told, he found ways for them to be successful. In his last year with Chris Paul, who everybody thought was, stick a fork in him, he's done as a point guard. Billy gave him a leadership role, and he kicked everybody's rear end, and he loudly, and he continues to be a great player. So Billy's not normal, and there's nothing normal about him. He's probably the third or fourth best horse player I've ever played. I usually give him a good beating. I love him. And he's somebody that I don't think I think the NBA to me is a retirement job. You know, if you go to the NBA, it's going to be exhausting, you know, no matter what anybody says. And the amount of time that you're away from family and everything, some people will say, you know, well, there's not any recruiting, there's this and that. You know what? That's a lot of hooey too. If you don't have a level of influence in some way, shape, or form as to who comes on your team, that's a problem. But Billy again's had his team, you know, basically in the cusp of the playoffs. You know, he was in a playing game. Austin Default, who years ago was a kid that played at Colorado. He was part of a team that became great at Colorado. We played them in the NCAA tournament, I think in 2012. I forget exactly what year, if it was 2012, maybe it was 2012.
Yeah, it was. It was in Albuquerque, I think, wasn't it?
Yep. And he, you know, he's somebody that I coached that summer and got to be very close with him. I love Austin, and when Billy was looking for assistance, I know Austin was in the NBA for a while, and we had talked, and Billy makes up his own mind. But when you care about somebody, when you care about two somebodies, you want to connect them. So I, you know, just communicated obviously what I felt my heart told me to tell Billy, and Billy makes his own decisions with his staff, but he's with Billy, and what he says about Billy in terms of how he coaches and his demeanor as he comes in every day. It's just clear to me that Billy provides an example of somebody that, you know, is really 40 years in this now, 30, 40 years, because he's wise and he shows truth to him, and he gives people an understanding that this is your profession, and it's my profession too, obviously, to coordinate this. But we're going to be honest with you, and I'm going to put you in the best situation to be successful.
Tim Maloney, go ahead.
I don't think that college is in his future.
Tim Maloney has coached players, teams overseas, Germany. Was it Macedonia? Isn't that what you went? I'm
an incredible genius. I mean, I'm the grand exalted high mystic ruler of basketball. I'm just a regular guy that happens to have irregular people be kind enough to have me around them, and I've enjoyed it. And I don't care what level it is. I could walk into a gym and it could be fourth graders. I'm just as excited as if you're in a national championship game. That's me, because the God I serve really doesn't care about, you know, whether the TV coverage is there or ESPN, you know, he doesn't care about any of that. Just cares about how you express your heart. Do you use what he's provided you in his son, meaning Christ, to basically for other people to see Christ in you by you just showing love? So I love the game. I love people. I mean, you teach the game, but you coach the person. I love coaching people. I don't care who it is, where it is, when it is. I'm just thankful that it is.
Beijing, among other places as well. Tim Maloney was on Scott Drew's staff with us. My last question for you, and Tim, we appreciate your time.
Oh, I love talking to you guys. You guys always make me sound intelligent, which is beautiful.
No, it's easy. We just ask pretty much anything, and you're going to go with it, and you're good with it. Now, there are thoughts. Ashley Hodge, who you may know, who's a huge Baylor men's basketball donor and also somebody who covers them, had mentioned there's going to be a high school coach that Baylor has dipped into that talent pool as somebody that Scott has already pretty much not locked in completely. At least I don't think it's official. And then maybe even with Bill Peterson leaving, maybe bring somebody in who's got a little bit of that NBA background to join his staff. Does that kind of make sense to you?
You know, just look at somebody's history, and usually their history, unless it's a bad history, stays very similar. You know, the truth is Jerome Tang and Paul Mills were both high school coaches before they ever stepped on a college campus. Paul ended up helping, on staff at a number of colleges, but he was a true high school coach, coached at two places. Coach Tang was 10 years at a school that he created into a national power. To me, if you don't have people that are truly invested in knowing how to coach, meaning you coach the person, if you don't have that, you're in trouble. The NIL and all of this stuff has made the peace in terms of just kids, negotiation wise. It becomes so transactional now that it's a little It's a little crazy, but I'm not upset with kids. Kids didn't put this situation in the way it's in now financially. But I want to have people on a staff that really know kids, know how to communicate, know how to be honest, are people that, if the kid comes to you and says, listen, I'm going to get $500,000 here as opposed to $200,000 here. Coach, I have to go. Well, you should be jumping up and down and saying you need to go get that. Because this is not a situation. A lot of kids in athletics, a lot of kids in college, a lot of people in life now with the status of way things are. Finances matter. They're tough. And if let's say you're a kid and, let's say you're somebody like Javion McCullum, who grew up in Fort Myers, Florida, and last year played at Oklahoma. He was a kid we competed against at Fort Myers High School when he was a player. And here's a kid, wasn't being looked at or anything else. His family would talk to me. He would talk to me. I loved the kid, met him before I ever coached back in Southwest Florida. Great kid. And no one was recruiting him. And he wanted to transfer to our school at Dunbar. And I let him know. I said, listen, where's your mom? And it was at an all-star game. Put my arm around him so that everybody in the area could say, oh, here's Maloney recruiting again. Put my arm around the kid, walked him to his mom. I said, hey, Ms. McCullum, I said, it's great to see you. I love your son. And she said, Coach Maloney, I know that. I said, I know a lot of people are talking to you about your son going to their school, right? And she, oh, yeah. And I said, I know he wants to come to Dunbar, right? Play with Caleb Jones and supposedly have me for a coach. No, Coach, we think the world. I said, well, if he comes, I just want you to know I'm going to cut him. I will not let him play. He will be done playing. He needs to stay at Fort Myers High School. Now, and I told her the reason is, why would anyone do that to your son and hurt his ability to be at a school, another institution in college? Because if I'm a college coach, I'm not recruiting you if you're jumping a million times. You've been successful at Fort Myers High School. You're going to leave to come to Dunbar just because, you coach is better or this, whatever circus thing, is going on. Be great where you're at. And that will provide you an opportunity. And you know what? It did. He got an offer at Siena. I told his mother and him, take that offer now. That was in the summer because no one recruited him in the state. Division II, Division III, nobody. He went 2 years. He was successful, went to Oklahoma, was successful there, and now he's at Georgia Tech. I can't say that kid is a disloyal kid or anything else if he's leaving an institution like Siena to go to Oklahoma, or to leave Oklahoma and get a little more finances at Georgia Tech. How could I say that? He needs to take care of his family and his mother and all of these people. My issue with today in basketball is this, and I'm sorry I'm taking too much time, but this is just what I think about. And I've always thought about this. This is the way in high school, the way that you can recruit is don't recruit like everybody else. Don't break rules like everybody else. Be the opposite. Be someone that says, no, man, I don't talk to you about that stuff. It has worked for me since 1986. Kids find their way to your school, and everybody tries to say, oh, you recruited us. No, everybody's mad because they did what was wrong. They tried to do something that was best for their interest. But if you're a coach in today's world, you better make sure that as a coach in college, certainly as a coach in high school, it's a must. But in college where, things get more transactional, you got to make sure that the kid, if they're getting an opportunity, you can't hold them back. You can't. And you got to make sure that they're provided, those are, and when they do, everybody else is going to watch on your staff. Everybody else that, every other player, every other coach. If you're not a leader, a CEO that is saying, I'm concerned about everybody here first, success is not following. You may have a blimp on the screen, success-wise, out of sheer dumb luck, but it ain't lasting. So I think Scott will do great. I'm rooting for Coach Mills, who I think is the best of the best. I think Coach Tang, best of the best, truly loves his players. Coach Mack, guys like Anthony Grant, Donnie Jones, guys like Frank Martin. I mean, I'm just, Scott Drew, I am all for Matt Driscoll. People that do it for the very reason it's in place, coaching, to help young people learn how to be a we and not so much a me, and help themselves to become something that, other people can aspire to. So there's a ripple effect. I want people to benefit people. That's what matters to me.
Tim,
and you can do this. You can do this. Just send me a check. I'll go for $200,000, because if this wasn't good enough to up your ratings, there's a problem.
A lot of people appreciate the real, from what, as you said, the we, not me, and the why. And Tim, great to have you on. We'll do it again. Can't wait.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. If you ever get back into Waco to come see Scott or whatever, make sure you let me know, okay?
Hey, I promise. I absolutely love you guys. I think you know it. You guys are the real deal, and you're always doing what's right. So keep it up, man.
Thank you very much. Tim Maloney has been all over the world coaching and being a part of basketball, and also, as he said, attached to Billy Donovan. He knows Patino real well, Scott Drew, when he was on his staff during the time they were building the foundation to what became a national championship program. Paul Catalina and his top 5.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into the Top 5. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross here. And Garrett, I figured this would be best for you and me to do again, considering that yesterday I did the full mock draft, of which I would like to say I got about 9 picks exactly right. But because there wasn't a trade until later, it threw the whole thing off. I got the first 4 right. I got the 9th pick right. I think I got the 7th pick right. I did okay in the top 10. Like, my percentages of the top 10 were pretty good. After that, like, I was a mess. I was a ridiculous mess. But so was everybody. Last night was really pretty kind of unpredictable the way things went down. Like, especially, when you look at
Falcons?
Yeah, the Falcons. That's the thing that kind of threw the whole thing off for me.
Yeah, stuff got weird after that.
Yeah, stuff started getting weird. I mean, Bo Nix at 12, because the Broncos didn't draft again until 76, so there's a lot of things. But here are the top 5 teams who owned the first round last night. Number 5, the Vikings. They did not have to trade all the way up to 4 or 5. They did trade up to 10 just to make sure that I believe they stayed ahead of the Broncos and got J.J. McCarthy. But they got the quarterback they seemed to have wanted the whole time, or at least one of the 2 that they knew that they liked and wanted. And J.J. McCarthy steps into a situation where he has a lot of weapons around him already with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and, of course, T.J. Hawkinson. He'll have Aaron Jones back there at least for a year. So those are good things for him, but he's got to hit the ground running. But I think the Vikings did really well. And then at 23, getting Dallas Turner, who you see on the screen there, really, really not my favorite pass rusher in the draft, but I am very biased.
Yes, you are.
But here's the thing. I think between him and Jared First and Latu,
you weren't going wrong.
I don't think you were going wrong. I think Latu's health concerns or something. But outside of that, I think you were doing okay no matter what you did. So I really liked that pick. I love what the Jaguars did here at number 4. They traded back with the Vikings. The pick that the Vikings used to take Dallas Turner was the Jaguars pick. And then not only did they pick up more picks, they got the guy they were going to take anyway in Brian Thomas Jr., who fills that Calvin Ridley role that they're going to need and gives a really nice young weapon for Trevor Lawrence. They do need to shore up a lot of things on defense. They need to be better in the running game. There's a lot that they have to do based on last year. But I do like what they're doing. Like, go get a weapon to go with the other things that you have there in Jacksonville for Trevor Lawrence. And, of course, you're a big Brian Thomas Jr. fan anyway.
Well, see, I was so nervous yesterday when we were doing the top 5, and we got to the Broncos, and we were looking at possibly him going
and
there.
That's where I had him.
Nightmare situation. So putting him with Trevor Lawrence, I think is good. Also, you have ETN in the backfield, so you have a good trifecta of young talent that you can build around on offense. Obviously, sure things up on defense, but it's a great landing spot for Brian Thomas right there in Jacksonville.
Number 3, the Cardinals. They had picks at 4 and 27. Look, they stayed put and just took Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
And for a team that doesn't necessarily have the best history when it comes to making smart draft moves, like sometimes look, yeah, maybe you get a player. Maybe you trade back and you get Rome Odunze, who I think is going to be just as good. But this is a true number one wide receiver that you haven't really had for Kyler Murray the entire time he's been there because of, how up and down it was with DeAndre Hopkins. And then, Hollywood Brown was just his buddy. That didn't work out. This is someone who steps in and is a ready-to-go pro wide receiver pretty much right off the bat. I mean, obviously there's going to be some growing pains, but he should be good really, really right away. He comes from what is now wide receiver the way they've been spitting people out. And then getting Darius Robinson, a guy I thought might fall into the second round, but a really good pass rusher. So two needs, two really excellent players, especially at the spots that they got them. So they got value all the way down. Number two, and I hate this, Garrett. I hate to keep putting them on the list.
I know.
But here's the Falcons did the Eagles the best favor in the world.
Yes.
Because that's what I thought the Falcons were going to do was take Quinyon Mitchell or Terrion Arnold. I saw Ross Tucker, who was on the show, I saw him do a bit on this. He's like, look, so we knew that the Eagles probably wanted to take a cornerback first because that's their most glaring area of need. And then if it got to them, would we even know who they liked better if one of them went off the board first? Well, neither of them went off the board until 22 when the Eagles picked. And so they got to pick the guy that they liked the most for the position of biggest need in Quinyon Mitchell. And then now they've got 2 picks in the 50s tonight. And,
Well, I also think they benefited by the massive run on offensive talent there.
Yeah.
I mean, they just were able to sit back and wait, and it unfolded perfectly for them. If you look right now, I mean, they are light years ahead of everybody else in the NFC East. It's scary, but they're also like trying to play catch up with the 49ers and everything there. No, they have a lot of talent. They're a fun team. It just sucks that they're in the NFC East with our favorite teams as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're just so well run.
Yes, they are.
They just are. And they signed A.J. Brown to an extension last night.
How you feel about that?
Further throwing CeeDee Lamb's contract up into the
love it.
I'm mad about that. I'm just mad about it. I'm mad that they went and got him in the first place. And then, here's the thing. The A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, all those trades that happened, the Cowboys got less for Amari Cooper than A.J. Brown, all these, it was all bad.
Yes.
All bad. The last couple years, just everything going on around them, people we'll get A.J. Brown, who I'd rather have than either of those guys.
Yep.
And then A.J. Brown's in the division, and then you're not even hey, the Titans want to trade A.J. Brown. Let's see why they'd want to do such a stupid thing. Let's go get him, and you have A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb, and then then it's really on Dak. Then you can genuinely say it's on Dak as opposed to oh, no, we have Michael Gallup. We're fine.
Right. I think that goes for the Cardinals, honestly, going back to Marvin Harrison Jr. You're going to find out a lot about Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Now that you're you have to take away all the excuses. I think when you have a quarterback, I think the Titans need to do this with Will Levis, although I don't think he's going to last very long as a starter there. But they need to take away every excuse. That's the Cowboys have never quite done with Dak.
Right.
Because it's he doesn't do this. Well, you didn't have a good running game. Well, he didn't do that. Well, you didn't have good receivers. Or your whole offense was built on, Zeke and Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb. And when one of those guys is ineffective, one of those guys breaks his leg, and then the other one is the only thing you have, is it all Dak's fault? No. I mean, the Eagles have set themselves up to where they have bailouts on everything. Yep. And they do. And plus, they have Saquon Barkley now, too. Number one, and this is the only thing I'll be able to say in this draft about the Bears.
Yep.
But getting the quarterback everybody knew was going to draft and who was the best quarterback available in Caleb Williams. And then just sitting at 9 and waiting for everybody else. For Rome Odunze to still be there at 9 just shocked me.
Yes.
Because I thought somebody would be I thought the Titans at 7 would take him. I thought the Falcons at 8 would take him.
I think that's where I got skewed.
And then it's they took the guy who threw all those passes to him, but the Bears being able to go, okay, getting Caleb Williams and then Rome Odunze. So now, what have you done on offense for the Bears? You've built your lineup a little bit. They probably still need to do a little work there, but you've got a running back in DeAndre Swift and then a backup in Roshan Johnson, who's both very effective. You have You went and traded for Keenan Allen. You've already got DJ Moore. Both those guys are, number one quality wide receivers. Rome Odunze, you have three guys who are probably eventually, number one type receivers with Rome Odunze. And then you've got a gigantic athletic tight end in Cole Kmet. So now go to work on defense, do whatever you can on that side of the ball. And you should start seeing dividends pretty quickly because you've given Caleb Williams a lot to protect him in the first year and then build towards. So, yeah, I loved the Bears. This has not happened very much for a team. They're a very moribund franchise.
They are.
As a matter of fact, I will go out on a limb and say Caleb Williams is the best quarterback they've ever drafted at this point. Like,
honestly, yeah.
Now that doesn't mean his career is going to be fantastic.
I think he's got the most coming in.
But
he's got talent.
But he's got the most talent of any quarterback the Bears have ever drafted. And the last time the Bears had a quarterback that was one of the best in the league, his name was Sid Luckman, and they didn't have face masks. Since then, they've not had it. The best quarterbacks in the Bears history are guys like Jim McMahon for a year or two, Jay Cutler for a year or two. Rex Grossman was not that good. He just wasn't.
He had a defense.
He had the best season of his career. He was in the Trent Dilfer thing where don't screw this up. But then he got to the Super Bowl, and who was he playing? Peyton Manning. So there was the difference in that game. So the Bears finally have some good things to talk about and some excitement in the best sports city in America, in Chicago IL. And I couldn't be happier for him. I really couldn't. I think the Bears are one of those teams I feel bad for.
Right.
I know Jack doesn't feel that way because he's a Packers fan and hates them. But maybe one day the Packers won't own the Bears. Like Aaron Rodgers just transferred his ownership to Jordan Love. So we'll see. But there is the top 5 teams who own the first round. The second round's coming up pretty much right after I stop saying words. This is 365 Sports. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, that's Paul with his top 5. One note about one of our great sponsors. All of them are great. Texas Beef House last night. CK6 Consulting Services put this up. They sold nearly 1,000 pounds of beef during their auction, the live and online auction yesterday just outside of Tyler. 600 plus pounds of steak, 216 and a half pounds of brisket, and 135 pounds of ground beef. Aaron Duvall, you've heard him before on this show. Samantha, Tyler, among others, had an incredible evening. And CK6 Consulting Services put up on their Facebook page how much it was. Customers from coast to coast, Wagyu and Angus beef, buying it for you, for them, based on the pricing point that you put together, based on it's you buying the beef and what you want. What's the value, supply and demand. It's a great business, and you should go online for more of what they have, the product, at TexasBeefHouse.com. All right, we'll be back on Monday, 365 Sports Tonight. We'll have a handful of more Big 12 football coaches to join us next week. We'll check out what's the latest as the portal will end early next week. And, of course, we'll look back at the NFL Draft. For Garrett Ross, James Hayden, by the way, Austin Westlake, and a senior at Baylor's in the studio with us today, and also Jack McKenzie, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and Emery Winter. Hit the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. And don't forget tonight, join us at 10:30 on the CW. I'm David Smoak. Have a great weekend. I'm glad everybody is safe today after all the crazy storms. And good night on 365 Sports.